He knew every aspect of this bill. He knew it better than almost anybody. And he never had a problem until right after he left.
The president says he had a great relationship with Musk, but doesn't know if he will anymore. The billionaire Tesla CEO, who led government efficiency efforts for months, just posting a response, calling it unfair that oil and gas subsidies weren't touched in the big, beautiful bill, and urging that a mountain of disgusting pork be cut to make the bill slim and beautiful. The president's comments coming during an Oval Office meeting with Germany's new chancellor and after a call with China's President Xi to iron out differences on trade.
We have a deal, and we're going to just make sure that everybody understands what the deal is.
This after each side accused the other of violating a recent agreement that paused higher tariffs.
By the way, he invited me to China, and I invited him here. We both accepted. So I'll be going there with the First Lady at a certain point, and he'll be coming here, hopefully, with the First Lady of China.
For now, trade talks between the U.S. and China will resume. On Ukraine, reporters pressing President Trump on possible sanctions against Russia.
Yeah, it's in my brain, the deadline. When I see the moment where it's not going to stop.
He calls the fighting with Ukraine a bloodbath, also suggesting tough actions are possible against both sides. Germany Chancellor Friedrich Merz says he, too, is looking for ways to stop the war, but he calls President Trump the key person to put pressure on Russia. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, it's Mike Rowe, and if you want to do business with a company that actually stands for something, switch to Pure Talk. I did. Sure, I appreciate being on America's most dependable 5G network with unlimited talk and text for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is Pure Talk's commitment to our military and to our skilled workforce. That matters to me. Save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
No one wants to leave behind stress for their family. That's why a trust or a will is so important. Without one, your assets might go to the wrong people or leave out loved ones. Also, probate is long, expensive, and often avoidable with a revocable trust. Trustandwill.com makes it simple to create a personalized estate plan. A trust or will provides clarity and peace of mind. Get 20% off on your estate plan documents by visiting trustandwill.com/radio.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Not a lot of action as we go through our Thursday afternoon. Mostly cloudy skies. I'll keep a chance of a spot shower, a thunder shower, but very, very limited. 83 for the high. Maybe a spot shower after midnight tonight, 67. The atmosphere gets cooking again on Friday. Periods of rain and thunderstorms. Some could be severe. St. Louis south on Friday. 79 for the high. It's warmer over the weekend. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Don't get lulled into believing the IRS is getting soft. It's just the opposite. Hi, this is Lance Story with the Lance Story Law Firm. We are being told by IRS collection officers that their higher-ups are demanding that they get more aggressive than ever. So don't ignore them any longer. Level up. If you have unfiled returns, unpaid taxes, levies, or liens, call the Lance Story Law Firm today and let us get between you and the IRS. We'll protect your rights, including your right to appeal or even your right to take the IRS to tax court. Remember, IRS problems are legal problems, and they need to be handled by an expert attorney team who's done it for decades. So call the Lance Story Law Firm today. We're local. Our office is right here in St. Louis, or visit Lance, DRURY, law.com to schedule your free consultation with your local tax resolution law firm, the Lance Story Law Firm, 314-260-6120.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Have you ever had a wedding reception in your yard or scheduled a party, birthday party or whatever kind of party at your house, and during the party or a couple, 3 hours before, notice your air conditioner is not working and it is the hottest day of the year? Or have you come home from a vacation and your house is baking? My experience has been that's when it will break. It just happens that way. So if that does happen to you, or say, again, you don't need to have a party or you don't need to be baked. But if your air conditioner breaks and you need to get the cold air back in your house, call me, Bart Inman. One easy number in Missouri and Illinois. That is 314-293-2600. Again, The easiest of numbers, 314-293-2600, or on the internet, bartinman.com. That's Bart with a B, Inman with an I.com.
If you've listened to 97.1 FM Talk, you've heard of Doug Voss of Voss Financial and Safe Money Radio, as he has been a staple as the financial expert on the station for many years. You can hear him on Safe Money Radio every Saturday at 2, right here on 97.1 FM Talk, and you can talk to Doug Voss directly. Here's his number. Call Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That is 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Is thinning hair or receding hairline making you self-conscious? Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Oh yeah, this is the moment you have been waiting for.
Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom.
Annie's out. Ryan and Brad are in.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
This is the Mannie Frey Show.
I mean, I've said, and will continue to say, because I believe it, that I'm for cutting spending, unproductive spending, until we run out of votes. But we can't do everything that everyone wants. And some people are just going to have to accept a ham and egg sandwich without the ham. We have some members of the Senate that will not get all the spending reductions they want. Here's what's driving this, Joe, and this is ultimately why I think the bill will pass. We're in uncharted waters here with the tariffs. I think the markets are telling us that. We don't know what impact they're going to have on the economy. But if we don't extend those tax cuts, we're going into a recession. And our economy is going to be on a journey to the center of the earth. And ultimately, I think that's why the bill will pass.
All right. I get it. We need the tax cuts. Everybody who wants this bill to pass is like, look, we gotta pass the tax cuts, which don't go into effect until the end of the year. So take your time, although we are going into further debt as we go about this.
That is not accurate.
Explain that later. Let me get into the show. This is Ryan Wiggins. Hello. I am back from vacation, and I went to some nice places. One of them was a history of like an American history place, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Been to a couple of those recently. 2 out of my last 3 family vacations were to places where there was a lot of American history or Americana, sometimes, where actual history was made. Sometimes it was just like landmark stuff. But I'd like to make a suggestion later in the show. While I'm on vacation, Annie always says this too, what cuts through is kind of what ends up mattering.
Yeah.
And while I was gone, there was not a single story that really cut through until the last day and a half or so, with the Elon Musk kind of saying, okay, forget it. I'm not going to try to be friends with anybody. We have to cut the national debt. We have to cut the deficit, I should say, which won't even cut the national debt yet. So I wanted to start with that because it is breaking through. Although, let me just give you a little bit of breaking news so that we can make sure that you're up to date with it. Trump has touted this morning, one of his news conferences, he talked about a lot of things. But one of the things that came out of that news conference was that he touted a very positive breakthrough with China. He slammed him for trade violations, but he said, and Xi Jinping has confirmed, that they are going to be having a call, and they already had at least one call, about the tariffs, and that, in Trump's words, it's like, we're real close to a deal. But, the market, I was checking to see, what do they think? Do they think they're close to a deal? The market hasn't really responded that much, so I think that we're past the sort of rhetoric phase and into the, okay, let's see the deal phase. So just so you know where that's at, I wanted to update you on that. But between now and then, this battle over the big, beautiful bill, the big spending bill that is going through Congress right now has been the big story. And now it has personal drama to it because you got Elon Musk, who was apparently pretty good friends with the president, now coming out and saying Trump's bill is bad. Like in no uncertain terms, he's saying the thing spends too much. Here's Scott Jennings on the kind of irreconcilable differences, which he says they're not actually irreconcilable.
This is a reconciliation bill, and it has three main points. Making the tax cuts permanent, massive investments in border security. It fully funds the border wall, and the biggest and most necessary welfare reform in at least a generation. Those three things happen to be what Donald Trump ran on for president and won the national popular vote and a not particularly close win in the Electoral College. So this is the president's agenda. And I actually think Elon's goals regarding reduction of debt and the president's goals regarding passing what he ran on are not irreconcilable. They're just all not going to happen in the same bill.
I actually agree with that. I don't think that these are irreconcilable differences. I think they are a very different approach to what is going on right now. So we made that the YouTube live chat poll of the day, and apparently a lot of you are weighing in on that. I'm glad to see that because this is a fight. Who is right on the big, beautiful bill? Is it Trump or is it Elon? Let us know what you think. A lot of people chiming in on this. Anxious to see how this turns out because in the past, when we've done, Trump-related stuff, we have a very pro-Trump audience. I'm pro-Trump. I think all of us are pro-Trump. But in this instance, Elon, to me, is making a very, very strong case. We'll get to that in a second. But I first wanted to present what I think to be both sides of this. You got Trump's side, you got Elon's side. Trump's is a little bit more nuanced because he's in the business right now of actually governing. And hopefully I'm presenting this well, Brad. I mean, tell me if I'm not, because I'm a little bit more on Elon's side here. I'll come right out and say that. But Trump's trying to get things done. And that's where we open with the Senator Kennedy clip, where he's coming out of the gate saying, yeah, I want to cut spending too, but we got to have the votes. You can't just do it you can't just keep yelling about it. You got to have enough votes to do it. So there's a practical aspect of it on Trump's side that has to get done. And in the midst of that, listen to this. Now, this is stuff I think we all would agree on. So whether you're in the camp of Elon, which I would say is basically you can't spend more than you're making. That's you boil down Elon Musk's argument, and it's kind of like Rand Paul. It's kind of like Thomas Massey. You can't keep spending more than you're making, or we're going to go bankrupt. Trump is saying, yes, but we need to pass the agenda that I was elected on, and a lot of that is in this bill. I mean, this is a big bill in the sense that it
Some
touches.
might call it beautiful.
You might. It touches a lot of areas that you wouldn't expect from just a spending bill. And I would say when I read through the list, and I've seen multiple lists about this. This one's from Charlie Kirk. There's not a lot in here that I'm like, no, that's not good. I actually like 99% of this. It's really good stuff. This is Trump's agenda. It's good stuff. Let me give you a few of them. Number one, no taxes on tips. That's one that I'm actually neutral on just because I'm like, okay, you campaigned on it. You're going to do it.
It's a campaign promise.
I don't know why certain income should be untaxable that others shouldn't, but okay, that's you ran on it and people voted for it. Number two, Trump tax cuts made permanent. Explain what you were just saying. These
they're made
before the end of the year.
They're made permanent, so they're not going to take effect. They would expire at the end of the year.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I just wanted to clear that up a little bit because you said it won't take effect until the end of the year.
It's a continuation of what we're already under.
You're not
going
to actually see more tax cuts on your taxes now that they've got this passed. What you won't see then is your taxes going up.
Good clarification because I was just referring to the time that it takes to do it.
For sure.
Which is just if you do it before the end of the year. Now I get like if you're an accountant, you're listening to me say that, you're like, no, Ryan, we need more time. I understand that. I'm just saying that technically if you pass it on December 31st, it still would be fine for the 2025.
It would still happen, nothing would change.
And that's all I'm saying. So Trump tax cuts made permanent. Number three, child tax credit raised to $2,500. That's not as high as we were hoping, but it is raised from what it is now. Number four, overtime pay tax-free. That's another one where you go, that's to help people who are working. I want to see all income taxes go away. So these carve-outs, I'm kind of okay with them.
Baby steps.
Yeah, just kind of getting there. But if that's how you get there, I would love to see Howard Lutnick come back on the scene and bust through a door and open up the shirt and be like, look, Superman's here. We're getting rid of income tax. I haven't seen that for a while. Work requirements for welfare. This is a huge one that was a big fight within a lot of the fiscal hawks in the House, that able-bodied people got to get off the couch. You can't just suck off of the government, you know what. It's good to be back, by the way. Deporting 1 million illegal immigrants a year. So this would be funding for that. They already are doing this, but this would be funding it. Builds the wall. Again, that's funding. 10,000 new ICE agents. Law and order at the border is huge, from Charlie Kirk here. Trump's savings accounts for kids. Building generational wealth from birth. Now, I don't know exactly the details of that, but I like the concept.
Yes. So my understanding is it's like a 401k for kids that you can put money in tax-free. I think it's a tax-free like savings account / investment that you can add to up until whatever, and then you can take it out at the age of 25.
I would like to see how that's different from a trust, but now I'm out of my league. Green New Deal defunded. No more money for solar BS stuff that was a massive, massive spending bill under Biden. Now that's good stuff, but the argument there is that they didn't actually defund all of it. So this is just saying that the Green New Deal is defunded. That's true, but Chip Roy and others are saying, yeah, but you didn't actually get all of it, and that's where I'm like, why would you not? Why would you not get rid of all of that right now when you have the majority to do it? I'm skipping a bunch here because there's a lot.
Yeah, what was there, 50 of them?
I just highlighted certain ones. Yeah, there's 50. Estate tax protections expanded. Family farms and businesses stay in the family. To me, that's a huge one. Some of these other things like repeals DEI mandates, they're already doing this. They're just codifying it into the spending. Yeah. HSA accounts expanded. So your health spending account could grow. So that's all tax-free money you could be spending if you know you're going to have issues. This one, big, not being talked about at all. School choice tax credits at the federal level. Parents, not unions, control education. Charlie Kirk says, historic. Very true. Love to see this in there. Mandates voter ID for federal elections. Now, that's going to be battled in court, but this puts the money behind it. Revives the Keystone XL pipeline. We keep going, where's that thing?
Yeah.
Well, here it is. Eliminates federal COVID emergency powers. Yeah, those still exist. Massively expands trade school funding, which is great because you need to move a lot of that funding that's going to the black hole of universities right now and move it into practical knowledge, into the trades. Outlaws federal funding for gender transitions for minors. Tax breaks for adoption and large families. Some of that already exists. It's expanding on all of it. I just wanted to get that out there. And that's a partial list. There's a whole lot more to this that is all, you read the whole thing and you're like, that's Trump's agenda. That's basically everything he ran on is in this bill. So I don't want to come out and say, I hate the big, beautiful bill. I'm just with Elon Musk in that I don't want to go into a debt spiral to get there.
America is also going bankrupt extremely quickly. And everyone seems to be sort of whistling past the graveyard on this one. The Defense Department budget is a very big budget, okay? It's $1 trillion a year, DOD, Intel, it's $1 trillion. And interest payments on the national debt just exceeded the Defense Department budget. They're over $1 trillion a year, just in interest, and rising. We're adding $1 trillion to our debt, which our kids and grandkids are going to have to pay somehow every 3 months. And then soon it's going to be every 2 months, and then every month. And then the only thing we'll be able to pay is interest.
That is a debt spiral, a death spiral for any company, any nation, any individual. When you get to the point that all you're doing is just paying off the interest on the debt you owe, you're screwed. And we're real close to that. We're not there, but we're really close to it. And if we don't stop the bleeding now, and now could mean this year or next year. I understand different people want to approach this differently. I just believe that we're in a spot right now where you have to do it now. It's not an election year. Next year will be, so people will be even less bold next year. Republicans will be. You have to do something about the debt right now. Not the national debt, not the $37 trillion that you keep hearing that we're in, but you can't keep adding to it. So even if it's just a flat budget, I would love to see a surplus. Like then you'd actually start eating into the national debt and the dollar would become stronger. And hey, look, maybe we're all saved. But right now, what he says in that, the big takeaway is the biggest item that we're spending money on as a nation right now is just the interest on the debt. And we have good interest rates. We're actually pretty good on that. Some of those interest rates are going to change.
So $36 trillion has a lot of interest.
There's a lot of interest. Even if you have a good interest rate, that's a lot of money. And that is more than any other spending item in the whole country. When you get to that point, the alarm bells should be going off. And that's really all I'm trying to communicate when I talk about this subject today, or that we've debated it previously, or we'll continue to talk about it into the future until we actually have a bill. That we've got to change the conversation on this topic, because nobody wants to be the bad guy and say we have to cut things that are hard to cut, because it's politically hard to do. It's really tough to be the one that stands up and says we have to cut things people like.
Yep. Let me ask you this question, and I'm going to pose this to you because you make the political argument. And my question to you is, are the Democrats interested in cutting the deficit spending?
If your argument is that Democrats would be worse, therefore we have to make sure they don't get in office.
Listen to what I'm saying. Are they even interested in it? Are they concerned about the stuff that you're concerned about?
They don't care at all.
They don't care at all. So the moment that they do take office, they're going to go back to spending, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that if your argument is we got to make sure that they don't get back in.
We have to do it, like, I'm with you. We have to cut the deficit spending, but you have to do it in a way where you don't go so hard and so deep and do the quote-unquote hard things, because not every American is where you and I are at on this. There are Americans out there that rely on these hard things, and when they say, hey, because the Democrats have done a great job of getting taxpayers and people to suckle from the, anyway, they've done a great job of doing that. And so these people rely on that. They look at this, and what they won't look at this and see is, hey, we're trying to cut and save the country. They will look at this and they say, you're trying to kill me, which is terrible, and it's awful, and it's a horrible, horrible moral thing that the Democrats have done in doing that.
Well, as much as I want to see Republicans maintain control of both chambers, one of the reasons that I like that they're in charge is that they might actually balance the budget.
Well, and they got to do it, but they've got to do it in a way, and they got to do it in such a manner that it's not such a huge shock to the system that they get absolutely wiped out, super majorities, that sort of thing.
Well, counterpoint to that, though, is that, and this is why it's our poll, is because even Brad and I are kind of on different sides of this issue in a sense. I mean, generally, I like the bill. Brad likes the bill in its priorities. Brad likes the idea of cutting the deficit. I like the idea.
Yes.
Like, generally, we're in agreement, but it's all about how you get there.
Yeah.
So that's why it's the poll today. But the one thing that I would say back to that is, even if Democrats took back the House next year, it would be painful. They're going to do tons of hearing. They can't spend another dollar without Trump signing it, though. So for
unless
2
they
more
get
years,
a supermajority.
Well, that would be really tough. Plus the Senate.
I'm saying you go in there and you start cutting deep, you're going to get into that.
That would be historic if they were able to do that. So until 2028, there's not a real good chance that they would actually be able to add to the deficit, which is why I'm saying do it now, even if it costs you the midterms, which I hope it doesn't. And there's stories out there about Trump raising a lot of money for Republicans in the midterms, which that's really good, more than ever. This is the argument, though. This is why I wanted to open the show and present both of these sides. Brad's got his side saying, look, you got to be smart about the way you're doing this. I get that. I like a lot of this bill. But this is our chance. This is our chance to finally balance the budget. And I really, really hope we can get the conversation to go there, because it's that important to the future of the country. Let's take a short break. I'm Ryan Wiggins, filling in for Mannie Frey, who will be back soon. I'm glad I'm back. Thanks to Ryan Recker for filling in for me, I guess, in a sense, in that way. But Annie will be back in just a couple days from her vacation. I'm back from mine. Hans von Spakovsky next.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show. The Mannie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Comfort Service wants to make sure that everybody in the area knows that they are here with you as people are recovering from storms. There's so much storm damage around the listening audience area here. Air Comfort Service wants to do something to help. My friends at Air Comfort Service want to draw attention to your AC unit. Storms can do a lot of damage to an air conditioner. There are obvious problems like wind damage, power outages, falling trees, even hail can become a major problem. Hail can bend coil fins and restrict airflow, which will keep your air conditioner from running properly. 314-513-0091. That's the number to call the expert technicians at Air Comfort Service. Again, 314-513-0091. Have those expert technicians come out and assess the damage at your home so that you have the information you need to potentially file an insurance claim. They know what they're talking about. They know what to look for, and they will help you prevent lingering issues later on this summer. 314-513-0091, aircomfortservice.com/storm.
Every success you've had began with a great opportunity. Now there's another one. Last aid year, University of Maryland Global Campus awarded over $21 million in scholarships to qualified students, including community college students, service members, veterans, and working adults. Now is the time to move your career forward with an online and accredited skills-based education. Learn more at umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Chef.
You're listening to the Mannie Frey Show, live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Save now with Carrier Cool Cash rebates up to $1,700 on a new AC or HVAC system. For details and a free estimate, visit aircomfortservice.com.
Your home is your sanctuary. Get the peace of mind you deserve with a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator from Generator Supercenter. They're the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. With expert installation and 24-hour monitoring, Generator Supercenter won't leave you in the dark. Financing is available. Take control of your power today with Generator Supercenter of St. Louis. Call 314-499-2020. That's 499-2020 or GeneratorSupercenterofStLouis.com. That's GeneratorSupercenterofStLouis.com.
Shout to the heart, and you're too late, darling. You give love.
This is the Mannie Frey Show. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
Let me just read for you, Scott, and then you can respond what the attorney for the family said. Punishing individuals, including children as young as 4 years old, for the purported actions of their relatives is a feature of medieval justice systems or police state dictatorships, not democracies.
Is this family in the country legally or not?
Actually, I'm not sure.
I think they may not be.
I'm not sure.
And obviously in the household, you have extreme radicalism, and that has now led to the literal burning of American citizens on the streets of this country in a clear act of domestic terrorism. And so, again, we have an individual district court judge stepping in here to try to prevent the commander-in-chief of the United States from protecting Americans from a clear invasion of radicalism.
That's, of course, Scott Jennings on CNN making some wise points that otherwise wouldn't be on CNN. This is Ryan Wiggins filling in for Mannie Frey. Love to get to talk to Hans von Spakovsky.
We the people of the United States,
More perfect.
your form of our perfect union.
Heritage legal expert Hans von Spakovsky.
Hans, I just got back from vacation, but I did see this story, and I was catching up this morning. A judge has blocked the deportation of this family of the suspect from being deported, even though they're here illegally. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, which I don't understand at all, because the father, the terrorist, overstayed his visa. And when you overstay your visa under federal immigration law, you are immediately deportable. And if he overstayed his visa, it means his family did the same, assuming they even had permission to be in the country. So this is, once again, a federal district court judge acting outside of the law.
Hans, what is even the judge's rationale here? Because that seems pretty open and shut to me.
I don't know what the judge's rationale
Okay, good.
is.
Okay, glad to hear that.
I mean, and that's the case in so many of these injunctions. Look, I'll give you another example of this where there is no rationale. Recently, the Supreme Court issued an emergency stay stopping and suspending an injunction who'd been issued by a lower court judge over the fact that administration had ended the mass parole they granted to illegal aliens from a number of countries, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Cuba, 500,000. And what was the reason given by the judge? Well, it wouldn't be in the public interest to do that. Well, the public interest, that's what Congress decides, not you, judge. You're supposed to enforce the law. But that tells you just how out of control these judges are.
Well, yeah, and if you use public interest, you could just make up whatever you want and say, I feel as if that would be against what I think would be good. Is what that sounds like. Not me, of course, not a legal expert, but I'm looking at this case and going, okay, the idea of process and due process seems to be coming up over and over. And I may have asked you this before when I was in here with Annie in the last couple months, but do illegal immigrants have the right to due process in the same way an American citizen does?
No, the answer is no. And here's what confuses people, particularly people on the left. Immigration proceedings are not criminal proceedings. They're civil proceedings. And the reason that's important is this. Look, if you're being criminally prosecuted, for burglary, rape, assault, whatever, yeah, you're entitled to the constitutional due process rights. It doesn't matter whether you're a citizen or you're an alien, whether you're here legally or illegally. But an immigration proceeding, an action by the government to remove you from the country, is a civil proceeding, not a criminal proceeding. And so therefore, everybody knows this from watching TV, right? What do the cops have to do when they arrest you? They have to read you your Miranda rights, right?
Right.
You have the right to remain silent. You have a right to a lawyer. The government doesn't have to do that when they arrest and detain an illegal alien. No Miranda rights apply. Not only that, but the government doesn't have to furnish you with a lawyer. Why? Because it's a civil proceeding, and particularly for aliens, your due process rights, yeah, you have some, but they are not coextensive with what American citizens get.
Stephen Miller said this a few weeks ago, and I actually printed it out from Twitter because I thought it was such a good quote. I wish I had it in front of me right now because you're talking kind of brought it to mind. That the number of district court judges and federal judges, I'm going to get it wrong, but it was something like 400 to 600 people basically are acting as president right now because they can issue orders on things that the elected president has done that we've never really seen this happen before in American history, at least not to this extent.
No, that is exactly right. There wasn't even a nationwide injunction ever issued in our history until 1963. And until the first Trump presidency, the number was very small. We're now at the point where I think something like 3/4 of the total number of nationwide injunctions ever issued in U.S. history have all been issued against who? The Trump administration.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So in 1963, now you've got me curious, Hans. Hans von Spakovsky with a senior legal fellow, Heritage Foundation. Now you got me curious. In 1963, had that always existed constitutionally and somebody just finally used it, or they kind of make that up?
No, they made it up. They made it up. The rules are very strict about this, and hopefully the Supreme Court will finally step in and stop this. Now, the one thing I do have to say is, look, this is really frustrating. But on the other hand, what people are overlooking is that the Trump administration actually has won some pretty significant victories at the Supreme Court already, because what's happening with almost every one of these cases is they're filing emergency appeals of these injunctions to the Supreme Court. And I've counted almost a dozen cases where the Supreme Court has stepped in, issued a stay, and allowed what they were doing to go forward. I mean, like what I was just talking about when a lower court judge said, oh, you can't revoke the mass parole of 500,000 illegal aliens in the country. Supreme Court stepped in and said, yes, you can.
Hans, is the Supreme Court playing it safe right now? Are they going to have to address this issue head on, and they're just reluctant to do so? And are they going to do that soon? Are they going to have to do that soon?
Well, I think they're going to have to do it soon, and the reason is that on May 15th, they heard oral arguments in a case involving the birthright citizenship issue. But the issue before the court were the nationwide injunctions issued by 3 different judges in 3 different states, and they weren't arguing about the substantive merits. In other words, is Trump correct in his interpretation of the citizenship clause? They were talking about the appropriateness of a nationwide injunction. So we're going to get a decision. What's today, June 5th? The Supreme Court term ends on June 30th. So we're going to get a decision from them between now and June 30th on nationwide injunctions in this particular case, birthright citizenship. And I suspect they're going to lay out prominently rules that are going to affect all these other cases. At least I hope they do.
Hans, before we run out of time with you, because you keep saying things that I'm like, I wanted to ask you about that too. With Trump and all these nationwide injunctions, nobody can argue, if you're paying attention at all, that the courts are actively, you can say, weaponizing themselves against the elected president of the United States right now. But the left would say, well, it's because Trump is so out of line. He's doing things that are that the courts have to stop because they're so illegal. I just wondered if you could address that.
That is just simply not true. And again, I give you another example of what we're talking about, the fact that, the president has the power to give illegal aliens what's called temporary protected status, which makes them legal for a short amount of time. And what the statute says is TPS can be extended to people who are from a country where some emergency has happened. And the best example of that is, remember some years ago when the huge hurricane hit Haiti, the president gave temporary protected status to Haitians who came to the U.S. That is totally within the prerogative of the president to grant that, which means it's totally within the prerogative of a president to end it. And yet when the president ended temporary protected status of Venezuelan nationals that the Biden administration had granted, you had a lower court saying, oh, no, you can't do that. How can it be within the discretion of a president to grant it, but it's not within the discretion of the president to end it? The statute makes it very clear it is, and yet you had this judge ruling against the president. It's the judges who are acting illegally, not President Trump.
Well, hopefully the Supreme Court can get this right, and we'll continue to talk to you about it because I'm gonna give you a suggestion, Hans. Don't go on vacation ever. Because if you do, catching up in the Trump era is really tough when you come back because so much happens in a week.
All right, I'll tell my wife that I can't go on a vacation this summer.
You can tell her I said so.
I will do that.
Thanks, Hans von Spakovsky, Senior Legal Fellow, Heritage Foundation. We talk to him every week, and we will continue to because things like that there's so much involved. There's so much. The difference between a district court and a federal court and a D.C. Circuit Court and the Supreme Court. I think we all understand the Supreme Court, but there's just so much to it and the process that it has to play out. I was just glad to hear a good reminder there that Trump actually is winning a lot of these cases. They're just gumming up the works. These judges, these activist judges, are ultimately acting illegally. That's what's being determined. Let's call it what it is. When the Supreme Court comes out and goes, no, you're wrong, they're saying you acted illegally. You, a judge, were wrong in this ruling, and we have to correct it now. And they don't really like that. So hopefully what we see at the Supreme Court level is them somehow managing the national injunctions issue, because that is a court issue. Now, could Congress address it? Yes, they could, but they're not going to get 60 votes. They're not going to get the vast majority or even a few of Democrats to. They can't even get Republicans to agree on everything on it right now. So the court will have to decide that, and we just hope and pray that they will decide correctly, not just for Trump's term. That's the thing. When you set a precedent like that, you want it to be a good precedent for the moment, but also for the next president so that they couldn't abuse it in some other way. So anyway, a couple shout outs before we get to Wiggins America in the next segment. People joining us in the chat today, and I actually just went on vacation and stayed with my cousin Kristen and Mike, and they listen, and Jaden and Taylor, I think, all listen. So big shout outs to family living outside the St. Louis area who are probably tuned in right now. Hello to everybody, but also people who are in the chat right now, Brad, who are new.
Yeah. There's some members of my youth group in the chat.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so that Jaylee and Henry and Caitlin. Hi, guys. Good to see you back today.
So how was the last week or so? Fine? Everything runs smooth?
I mean, everything went good.
Because me and Annie both being out is a little bit like, "Ugh, we didn't mean to do that."
Well,
but.
you and Annie both being out means that the stuff that you do post-show and the stuff that she does post-show has to still get done, and so that falls on me and Ethan. And Ethan also has responsibilities with the Reardon show. So a lot more stuff has to get done with a lot less people doing it, but we managed. We got through.
I did see a couple of your, videos and posts and things that you put out, and I'm always interested to see what's going on when we're not here. So good job on that. When I'm here and Annie's not here, now you guys didn't do Wiggins America when I was gone, did
we
you?
We did Be or Not to Be on Friday.
Okay,
and then Ethan did a Monday roundup.
Oh, so you did like parts of it, but not every day.
Yeah.
So when I'm here, I'm like, Ethan, you have to do Wiggins America because I think maybe a part of me, without knowing it, just has ego, and I have to get my name in the show somehow without just saying my name is Ryan Wiggins, filling in for Mannie Frey over and over and over, which I already do.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you, Ethan's a little miffed at you.
I know,
and it's because you didn't put his name in the Mannie Frey Show Open and Stingers.
Oh, it's true. I didn't. I said Ryan and Brad are in, which you used for Ryan Recker,
yes,
which was funny.
Which is accurate.
and it's still true. But he's right. I need to get Ethan in there somehow. Well, I'll make it up to him. As you have known by listening to the show enough now, hopefully, I made a special open for when Ethan hosts Wiggins America, and that is unique to him.
And he loves it.
It's very strong.
It's a great open.
Yeah, stick around to hear that next if you've never heard it, and to hear what Ethan is bringing in for Wiggins America next on the Mannie Frey Show.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show. The Mannie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Hi, this is Tammy Kershaw with Retirement Advisory Group.
Hi, I'm Bob Kershaw. As a family business, we are committed to protecting your retirement, whether you're nearing retirement or already retired. What if it were possible to protect you from market downturns without having to make an emotional decision to buy or sell? What if you could take advantage of a strategy that would automatically take you out of harm's way during the bad years and position you for the growth opportunity during the good years?
The secret is linking safely to the market without putting your principal at risk. By linking to the market instead of owning the market, you can participate safely on autopilot and lock in your gains without creating a taxable event. Go online to retirementkey.com for a no-obligation retirement review, and we'll teach you the strategy that has helped our clients retire with confidence for the past 39 years. And just for coming in, you'll get a copy of our latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. So go online to retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
If it's time for new windows, there's only one place to call. That is Window World. Mark Cox here. Call my friends at Window World at 314-993-1800 for your free estimate today. If you have any questions, they'll be glad to send someone out to explain all of it to you. You can even schedule right online at windowworldstl.com. You know, there's a lot of high-interest financing out there, but here's what Window World's doing. Right now, they're offering 18 up to 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. You can't beat that. You also get a lifetime warranty that covers all of the parts, the glass breakage, and labor. Who else stands behind their product like that? Over half the appointments Window World will set this year are from previous customers or referrals from those customers. That is a testimony to their customer service, their quality, and their commitment to creating loyal customers. That's what you get with Window World. Call them at 314-993-1800, windowworldstl.com.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. A question I get all the time is, how did we become the largest injury firm in the world? We have over 1,000 lawyers in all 50 states and close to 6,000 coworkers. Our call center is on duty 24/7. You can reach us at any time at forthepeople.com. But the real reason is we won a lot. When you visit our website, go to our verdicts and settlements. There you will see what our clients were offered and what they were awarded at trial. All those verdicts help us resolve many cases fairly and early. You see, nothing beats reputation. The insurance industry knows who we are. We even have insurance adjusters call us for representation because they know too. We've made it easy. On your mobile device or computer, go to forthepeople.com and we will get busy. It's that easy. Call today. Morgan & Morgan, For the People. Injured? Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Mizzou football is here to stay. After an undefeated home season and a second straight 10-win year, the Tigers are looking for more in 2025.
Eli and the boys have done it again.
With a top 10 transfer portal class and a strong home schedule highlighted by Kansas, Alabama, South Carolina, and Texas A&M, you don't want to miss out. Get your spot in line by joining the season ticket waitlist at mutigers.com/FB waitlist. MIZ.
We all have someone we love, like the favorite lyric in our favorite song. You can't imagine life without them. So tell them today, I love you. Get screened. It could help save their life. Visit cancer.org/getscreened to learn more.
Today's YouTube live chat poll. Who is right on the big, beautiful bill? Ryan or me? No, Trump or Elon? That is today's YouTube live chat poll question. Ryan and I have taken opposite sides on this.
But we're not saying what they are right
Yeah, we're still friends.
Yes.
But we will debate
Probably
this.
more so than Elon and Trump.
Yeah, we will debate this vigorously throughout the show, and we want to hear what you think on it. So jump on Annie's YouTube page, vote in the poll, and leave us a chat telling us why you voted the way you voted. The time is 12:47, and this time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
The Mark Cox Morning Show.
Friday, Governor Kehoe got his special session bill past the Senate. We'll talk to him live at 7:08 Friday morning.
The Mark Cox Morning Show. Weekdays from 5 to 9. Right here on 97.1 FM Talk.
You know, I don't
Annie's
really
out,
like...
Ryan and Brad are in.
Come on.
This is the Mannie Frey Show.
I thought we had a flow going, and then you play the liner.
You did. You didn't even let me play a liner.
I love that you're about to play my special Wiggins America intro after just doing that.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was Brad's fault, obviously.
That was not my fault. One of us was on vacation.
You guys having some issues?
One of us was on vacation. You know what I noticed is that I do not shave at all when I am not here. And so this morning I was like, oh, man, I'm in bad shape. And so kind of caught back up. But Joe online is saying that you, Ethan, are more of a lumberjack today. I can't really tell.
Ethan is a lumberjack.
Is that what scruffy Ethan looks like?
Ethan hasn't shaved for like a week.
Are you trying something or are you just lazy?
No, because when I try something, it just looks like patches of red hair.
Oh, that's not great.
No.
You know what's
funny? This is not me trying anything. This is me being lazy. Let me make that clear.
I had heard when I went to Japan that people would stare at you if you were not Japanese. And I didn't see a lot of that. Like, our whole party is all, like, it was me and my friend and my wife, and we're obviously all white Americans. And we didn't get a lot of that. I think because we're in Tokyo and, like, there's tons of people in Tokyo.
Sure.
You see people all the time. But I did get some of it. And you know why I got stared at? And even people would, like, I saw people kind of doing the little, bring their phone up out of their pocket and take a fake picture, like act like they're doing something else.
Is that Ryan Wiggins?
But they're taking a picture
from
of
the
me.
Mannie Frey Show?
And I was like, that can't, no. My mind didn't even go there. I'm in Tokyo.
You never know.
But I realized later that one of my friend who's married to a Japanese girl, she said, I think they were taking pictures of you because of your facial hair. Because Japanese men have a tough time growing facial hair. Some people do, but it's very little.
Yeah.
And my beard's big and full. Brad, you got the same thing where people would be like, oh, wow, you know, and they could take a picture of it, or they'd stare at you just because you had a big beard. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Anyway.
You want to touch it? No, don't. That's
I
weird.
thought you were going to say, like, it's because I was wearing jeans or something like that.
Yeah, they all wear flannel. Pajamas. Khakis. Yeah. They all wear khaki shorts and sandals. Are you ready for Ethan's America?
Wiggins. Oh, Wiggins.
Not Wiggins America, Ethan's America. Ethan's America.
I hate you more and more every time I hear that.
Did you play it when I was gone?
Yeah.
I didn't play anything.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Don't look at me when you ask that stupid
That gets
question.
played every time Ethan does Wiggins America.
Thank you.
Your stupid questions
What
out
kind
of
of
your
dumb
stupid
topic
mouth.
do you have?
Coming from your stupid face.
What's your stupid topic?
So we started a conversation last week, the first day that you were gone. Boy, was that a great day. And it was on Americans doing the strangest things. Things that people here in America do that people from other countries look at and they're like, what? Why do you do that?
I just gave you a perfect intro to that with the Japanese story.
You did
I didn't
radio
even know
things.
I was doing it.
You did radio things.
I'm not going to lie, I didn't even connect it either. So we're going to act like I did, though, even though I just said I didn't. So there's a bunch of great things on this article mentioned, and we only got to a couple of them last week, so I figured let's continue on with this. The three that we mentioned, if you weren't a part of that segment last week, and Ryan, for you, were talking to strangers at the supermarket.
That's something that people in other countries definitely don't do?
Yes, that is what the article is saying, that these things, people from other countries find these things weird or odd about Americans.
Do you do that?
Talk to people at the supermarket?
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah,
no.
I can't say I do that a lot either. If I see somebody I know, I would.
Now, Annie told us just make sure, or was it you, Brad? Maybe you said it. Don't talk to pregnant women.
No, Annie said that.
Annie said that.
No,
Why?
there was somebody in our chat, but I think it was.
Do we remember why? It's because it had to do with, like, you know,
Well,
who knows what they're getting, and, like, don't mess with pregnant women. I think that's what it had to do with.
Well, from my recollection, now I missed the day you were talking about this, but she said that a lot of people will walk up to pregnant women and just put their hands on your belly.
Oh.
And that's a violation of
like people you don't
space.
know?
Yeah.
Oh.
Not everybody, but
Yeah,
just there's enough people that think that that's okay, that because they're reminiscing. Usually they're going, oh, when I was pregnant, it's usually women. I don't think it's guys. Although maybe, I don't know.
Ryan, has anyone ever done that to you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, that's not even a baby.
Did you see that? Did you see me start smiling over here?
It's
Like
a gummy baby.
That was me thinking of asking you that.
Those are Hot Pockets. That's not even a baby in there. And I'm so proud. So I like it.
Just a few hours old.
I'm going to give birth like in a couple hours.
Oh, God. Okay. That's enough of that.
What's the next one, Ethan?
What's the next one?
The other two that we mentioned were giving guests a tour of your home. That was the second one. And then the third one was wearing shoes in the house.
Wait a minute. Why is it because we have bigger houses?
No, like when you have someone over for dinner, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, you know, I guess it's custom here in America to show them your home, give them a tour of your home. That is weird to other people.
That seems so normal. Like look at what I've got. You're showing it off. Like, is that weird?
Behold my stuff.
Check out this wing of my home.
I read this last week, but I did enjoy this quote, so I'll read it here. This is from a Japanese visitor who describes it saying, "The Americans were very kind to invite me into their homes for dinner, but always, as soon as dinner was over, they would ask if I wanted to take a tour of their house as if it was some sort of monument. I really did not want to, but I could not tell them no, so I said, yes, please."
Why would you not want to? That's totally fun. I understand why you wouldn't in Japan, because the houses are very small.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you just don't have. Here's what's really weird. Another weird thing about Japan is that the houses are so small that, let's say you want to go do a weekend activity. You want to go camping or something. Well, they'll buy all of their camping gear, go camping, and then get rid of all of it because you can't store anything. You don't have room in your house. But they like doing the same stuff as anybody else would, but they just can't keep all the stuff.
I couldn't make it in that
Yeah.
sort of environment.
Yeah.
So we have like 2 minutes left until the segment's over, so we should probably do some like new ones, shouldn't we?
Sure.
Is that fair?
Oh,
okay.
this is all the ones you've already done?
I told you, these are the ones we already did.
I wasn't
and then you
listening
just
to
kept
that.
honing on them. I'm like, okay, Ryan, we got to move on here. Americans give hugs. You guys give hugs?
No, I
You guys
don't
hug
like
givers?
hugs.
Yeah, I kind of do.
I'm a hugger.
I'm not a hugger.
I like hugs.
I like hugs.
This lady from Spain says that she missed her country's traditional kisses on the cheeks while she studied in the U.S. for a year. But they said that was replaced with hugs. You know, that's a thing, like, you know, like, mwah, mwah on each cheek. Foreigners observe that Americans tend to stand far apart by their standards, stretching out a hand for you to shake, and then when you least expect it, someone will give you a great big hug. There is nothing worse than going in for a handshake and someone going back for a hug.
Yeah.
I'm all about hugs, but the interaction when you get it wrong, that is terrible.
Yeah, it's awkward. It's awkward. I like the hugs, though. Like, if I know it's coming, I'm fine with it. You know what I recently read, though, and I wonder if there's truth to this, that if you are a man of dating age and a woman hugs you, that means she likes you. 100% true?
I don't know. I've never been a woman before.
If they hug
Ethan?
you, it means they like you?
Yeah, if a woman hugs you, it means she's into you.
I'm gonna go ahead. If she's going in first, I think I understand. I think I back that.
It doesn't mean
depends
that
on how long you know one another, but I could see that.
It doesn't mean that you are reciprocating. You're just, if she goes in for the hug, it's because she has some sort of affection for you. Usually it's that she likes you.
This one made me laugh. Americans don't walk.
That's true.
Of course they walk, right? But foreigners from many countries are surprised that Americans don't walk to do daily business like shopping, going to work or school or church, because obviously, you know, cars everywhere, and everything also is just so much more spread out.
Yeah,
here.
we got a big country, big houses. We'll show them to you.
I was going to say, that's one of the things that a lot of Europeans and people from foreign countries don't understand is how big the United States actually is. Like, if you drove for 5 hours in England, you end up in Scotland and you're at the top of the island. You drive 5 hours in Texas, fall asleep, drive 5 more hours, and you're still in Texas.
The author had some in-laws in town, it says, and they came and they visited another family member in the Seattle area. They walked several miles, it says, to the grocery store, and the police were so thrown off they stopped and they asked if they were okay. That's pretty funny.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Even the way we view people walking, you're like, what's wrong with that guy?
Did your car break down? Do you guys need a lift?
Why are you choosing to do that when, like, you could just, like, not?
Yeah, at least get on a Segway, my man. Like, do something. All right, we'll take a short break. Thank you for the reused material. Appreciate that. Great Wiggins
That's what I
America
do.
there. 12:57. We will be right back with more of the Mannie Frey Show.
For that special person in your life, you need to visit the Diamond Shop. They're located in Clayton, but did you know that the Diamond Shop has been helping families find the perfect timeless jewelry right here in St. Louis since 1910? That longevity of shopping, essentially local, shopping with a family that cares about your family, getting to know your family, helping multiple people in your family. They do it with beautiful, timeless pieces and wonderful, respectful customer service. Do not be intimidated when you walk into the Diamond Shop. You can leave all of that, check that at the door. You're going to walk in. Everything sparkles so beautifully. And then they are constantly running great, awesome sales to make sure that they meet the mark of the month. Right now, we're probably looking at Father's Day gifts, possibly looking at watches, maybe a tie restraint. I had a tie restraint made for my husband from the Diamond Shop. He loves it. He doesn't have to stick a pin in his silk ties any longer. You go to the Diamond Shop, they're going to take care of you. Find them online at thediamondshop.net.
We've been here 30 years, 30 Christmases in this house, and we have the traditions that most families have.
That's Terry talking about her experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We did Rhino Shield 14 years ago, and the house still looks the same as the first day. Rhino Shield really worked with me to help me get just the right, nice, soft yellow, and it's 14 years later, and it's the same color.
The main reason Terry called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by its 25-year transferable warranty.
It just sounded wonderful that we could have the house coated with Rhino Shield and not have to worry about it again for 25 years.
Take it from Terry. Give Rhino Shield a call now for a free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO or visit 877-25rhino.com.
There have been neighbors that have come by and said, "Did you just have your house painted?" Because they wanted to know who the contractor was. And I said, "No, it's actually Rhino Shield."
877-25rhino.com.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
An immigration judge intervenes. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. A judge in Massachusetts just granting bond to a high school student arrested on his way to volleyball practice last weekend as part of an ICE operation. Homeland Security officials have said they were looking for his father, accused of reckless driving, but arrested the teen when he was found to be in the U.S. illegally after his student visa lapsed. The president's having a public debate with Elon Musk over a House-passed budget bill.
President Trump defended the big, beautiful bill and the proposed tax cuts in it.
I'd rather have him criticize me than the bill because the bill is incredible.
The president said he knows Musk might be frustrated with the elimination of the EV mandates or that they rejected his pick to run NASA, but that he'd always been happy at the White House.
Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if we're well anymore. I was surprised because you were here. Everybody in this room practically was here as we had a wonderful send-off. He said wonderful things about me.
Musk responded on X by saying it is fine to cut benefits to EV and solar, but ditch the mountain of disgusting pork.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. The president says trade talks with China will resume after he spoke today with China's president. The two countries had accused each other of violating a recent agreement, pausing higher tariffs. A tech giant is accusing China of using its popular AI program to help with spying and influence campaigns in the U.S.
OpenAI, the company behind the ChatGPT artificial intelligence, says they've identified a number of instances where user accounts linked to the Chinese Communist Party were being used to further cyber espionage efforts. In one case, those accounts were creating phony content on social media, likely with the goal of affecting U.S. political discourse on U.S. tariffs.
Fox's Evan Brown. Many of those accounts are now shut down. OpenAI suspects similar efforts are originating in North Korea and Iran. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, it's Mike Rowe, and if you want to do business with a company that actually stands for something, switch to Pure Talk. I did. Sure, I appreciate being on America's most dependable 5G network with unlimited talk and text for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is Pure Talk's commitment to our military and to our skilled workforce. That matters to me. Save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
No one wants to leave behind stress for their family. That's why a trust or a will is so important. Without one, your assets might go to the wrong people or leave out loved ones. Also, probate is long, expensive, and often avoidable with a revocable trust. Trustandwill.com makes it simple to create a personalized estate plan. A trust or will provides clarity and peace of mind. Get 20% off on your estate plan documents by visiting trustandwill.com/radio.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Not a lot of action as we go through our Thursday afternoon. Mostly cloudy skies. I'll keep a chance of a spot shower, a thunder shower, but very, very limited. 83 for the high. Maybe a spot shower after midnight tonight, 67. The atmosphere gets cooking again on Friday. Periods of rain and thunderstorms. Some could be severe. St. Louis south on Friday. 79 for the high. It's warmer over the weekend. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Don't get lulled into believing the IRS is getting soft. It's just the opposite. Hi, this is Lance Story with the Lance Story Law Firm. We are being told by IRS collection officers that their higher-ups are demanding that they get more aggressive than ever. So don't ignore them any longer. Level up. If you have unfiled returns, unpaid taxes, levies, or liens, call the Lance Story Law Firm today and let us get between you and the IRS. We'll protect your rights, including your right to appeal or even your right to take the IRS to tax court. Remember, IRS problems are legal problems, and they need to be handled by an expert attorney team who's done it for decades. So call the Lance Story Law Firm today. We're local. Our office is right here in St. Louis, or visit Lance, DRURY, law.com to schedule your free consultation with your local tax resolution law firm, the Lance Story Law Firm, 314-260-6120.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Let's just face it, right? Your home should work for you, not against you. Hi, it's Kim, and if you've been dreaming of a new kitchen, bathroom, or a finished basement, now's the time to call Lakeside Renovation and Design. They're St. Louis's trusted experts in turning houses into dream homes. Just imagine this, a spa-like bathroom, maybe a chef-inspired kitchen, or how about a cozy basement perfect for some movie nights? Their team handles everything from design to installation so you can just sit back and enjoy the process. Visit lakesidearty.com today to start your dream renovation.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon, and whether you're looking for independent living, assisted living, or memory care, New Perspective gives you the freedom to live the life you love with just the right support. Beautiful apartments, amazing dining, plenty of activities. Check out npseniorliving.com today. New Perspective Senior Living, a friendlier approach to senior living.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Oh, yeah, here's the moment you have been waiting for.
Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom.
Annie's out. Ryan and Brad are in.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
This is the Mannie Frey Show.
All right, back to the real news here after that crazy Wiggins America. Why do we even do that segment? Who is right on the big, beautiful bill, Trump or Elon Musk? They are kind of at odds right now, although I think that they could work things out. I don't think just personally. I think that both sides that they represent could actually come together and work things out. But, you know, we're asking you to pick a side right now who's right on the big, beautiful bill, Trump or Elon. I'm Ryan Wiggins, filling in for Annie Frey today, back from vacation. I figured we would go right into this because, as I said before, the one major story that broke through for me while I was on vacation for the last week was the fact that Elon was willing to come out and say, I am against the big, beautiful bill, because he's Trump's buddy. And that is a major departure. Now, that's really right as he's leaving the White House, too. Like, he's not really heading up Doge anymore. And so I don't know that there's reports that he has said that that he was really disappointed with the person that he wanted to head up NASA, that the Trump administration said no to, and that caused another rift, and that he said, okay, fine, then I'm just going to say whatever I want, against basically going into more debt with this spending bill. So anyway, that being the big story of the day, this one also caught my attention, and I thought, man, that's not going to change the world, but it is one of those that you just sort of eat your popcorn and you go, oh, I'm watching this. Reading from Politico here. Karine Jean-Pierre, she is the former White House press secretary. She has announced that she's leaving the Democrat Party, timed with the rollout of her new book, and has detonated long-simmering grievances among her former White House colleagues. Now, again, this isn't Fox News reporting. This is Politico. And I guess there's all these simmering issues that they've had about Jean-Pierre's pursuit of celebrity and personal media exposure while serving as then-President Joe Biden's press secretary. The attention-grabbing ploy lit up Democratic and Biden alumni texting groups and reignited frustrations that burned for years about Jean-Pierre, according to 7 former administration officials granted anonymity to describe these private conversations. So there's a lot of consternation between all these people. It says one former official recalled that Jean-Pierre had joked about becoming an independent even while on the job in the Biden White House, an off-key comment for someone ostensibly serving as major messenger for the Democrat Party. Yes, certainly. So I don't know what this means for her bona fides, like, oh, wow, she's really willing to like buck her party and come out against these things. What the implication of these officials is that she really just wants attention. And she got the press secretary job, and that fed right into that. And now the book is doing the same thing. It's a weird time to be releasing a sort of tell-all book. I mean, do you get the sense, Brad, that that's what this is? Is this a tell-all book from Karine Jean-Pierre? That's the way it's being billed.
I don't know. Because what I've heard from the audio of her talking about what the book is and that sort of thing, it's about being an independent thinker and that sort of thing. So I don't know that that's exactly what it is, but maybe it is.
I was looking for audio on this. Full disclosure, I can't find anything that's that definitive as this article is saying.
It's about as definitive as her press conferences are.
That's very accurate. I pulled up this article because the headline is Karine Jean-Pierre is leaving the Democratic Party. But I haven't seen any real audio of her saying that. This is the closest we could find. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's like a minute long, and she kind of meanders and never really says it.
Hi, I'm Karine Jean-Pierre, and I am the author of a new book that's coming out this fall called Independent. It's coming out on October 21st, so please do grab it. And the reason I wrote this book, coming out of the White House, serving as White House press secretary was an honor and a privilege. But since I have left, the people that come up to me, strangers that come up to me just across the country as I'm traveling, and sometimes right in my neighborhood, at a grocery store, supermarket, airport, my daughter's school, the number one question they ask me is, Karine, how do we get out of this? How do we protect our democracy? How do we protect vulnerable communities among us? What do we do next?
Okay, first of all, unrelated to the book, do you think people are actually walking up to Karine Jean-Pierre in the supermarket, which apparently only Americans do, and saying, how do we protect vulnerable communities? How do we protect our democracy?
I don't think people are walking up to her and asking. Maybe, I don't know what community she lives in, but I don't think that's what they're doing. No.
That's not even a normal question. Like, even if you knew the politics of the person.
I don't walk up to people I know and ask that question.
How do we protect our democracy?
So
I don't know. I'm really interested in finding out how many grapes are in this bag. I don't know.
This is why Europeans think we're weird for talking to people.
Maybe that actually is happening, but that sounds a lot like press. I mean, look, we're in radio. We know how that works. One person walks up and goes, hey, I really like the show. And then you get on the air and you go, man, everybody keeps telling me they love the show. That's the way it works. Karine Jean-Pierre, somebody probably walked up to her once and goes, I'm a little concerned about these deportations or something, which is a little weird already in an airport. But she's extrapolating all the other issues that definitely nobody walked up to her and said, how do we protect vulnerable communities?
Because we don't have answers here. That's what they ask me. And this is my answer. And what I mean by that is, in an era of misinformation, disinformation, the regressiveness of social policy, what we're seeing currently right now, what I have decided to do, and I really have thought long and hard about this, is to follow my own compass. And that's what I've done. And that's what this book does.
Okay, I'm warning you right now. That's about as close as she comes to saying, I'm leaving the Democratic Party. So I'm guessing what Politico is getting is from either statements she made written that I haven't seen, but they're not even listing them in the article.
No.
So I don't know how they're determining that, but that's where she kind of says it.
Well, the title of her book is Independent.
Yes. And it comes out in October. That's not close. I would encourage everybody to get it. Yeah, okay, you want to get on a wait list because it's June.
And here's the truth, and here's how I will lay it out to you. I think we need to stop thinking in boxes and think outside of our boxes and not be so partisan. And the way that I see moving forward in this space that we're in right now is, if you are willing to stand side by side with me, regardless of your how you identify politically, and as long as you respect the community that I belong to and vulnerable communities that I respect, I will be there with you. I will move forward with you. And
I didn't even notice this the first time through, but what she says there is, as long as you respect what I respect, I'll be right with you. Oh, wow. How generous of you.
Yeah. And that is, I think, so important. So this book, Independent, it's about looking outside of boxes, not just always being in a partisan stance. And how do we move forward together in a compassionate way in a way that really, truly cares about people.
Okay.
October 21st.
October 21st. As long as you believe what I believe, let's think outside the box for a second. What? I mean, you're right. That does sound like a press conference.
I invite you to agree with me.
Yeah, thanks. Let's stand side by side, assuming that we have the same general beliefs. I think I'm doing Seinfeld. I didn't even try.
You're sliding right in there, man.
So that's the full quote that we could find from her saying she's leaving the Democratic Party. Here's the other weird thing, is that the stories about her book are that she's going to do a tell-all about Biden's health and about how bad he was, but I haven't heard her say that either. So I don't know what's really in this book, but we preemptively, this was very easy to do, pulled a bunch of clips of her denying anything about Biden's cognitive decline. Now, you've listened to the show either for a day or for years, and you know that stuff exists. It is really easy for us in radio to go back and go, oh, here's 20 of those clips, because it was constant. So I'm not even going to play it for you because I'm not really sure that that's what the book is yet. Mm-hmm. That's just what people are reporting that the book is. But I do like this debate that Peter Doocy and, is it Jackie Heinrich?
Well, they weren't debating. They were just reporting on what it was like, because they're both Fox News White House correspondents.
So this is them talking about whether or not Karine Jean-Pierre has lied.
Mm-hmm. Who was telling her to go out there and dismiss things as misinformation, as entire subjects that have been proven to be true?
That's an interesting point.
Who was telling her to do it?
Her job is to defend the president, right? Her job, Jackie, is to defend the administration, the decisions they make, right?
Well, so let me just say.
Was she being forthcoming on that, or was it subterfuge? I don't want to use the word lying, but I mean, you were sitting there. What was your impression?
I might. I mean, that's if we're supposed to accept the premise that, you know, it was not her who was saying these things when we sat there and, you know, witnessed her do it. I don't know why, you know, if someone has this moral clarity right now, it didn't exist before. I find it hard to look upon that without some deep questions. So I will read the book. And keep an open mind, but it's going to be
You know what she could have done? There was an easy fix. If she really thought that the Biden White House was broken, she could have quit. She was, as the White House press secretary, the most prominent Democratic communicator, really political communicator, in the entire world during her tenure. If she thought that things were so bad, or that she was being sent out to the podium to say things that she did not know to be true, then she should have quit, and she didn't.
I mean, they would know. Doocy and Heinrich were in the room with her all the time.
I found it super interesting that Bill Hemmer asked, like, was she lying? Or what does he say? I wouldn't go as far as using the phrase lying. And she's like, I would.
Yeah. They pressed her like crazy.
Yeah.
And to her credit, she did call on them. She didn't call on almost any other conservative journalists, but she did call on them. And they would ask those questions, and that's why we have these montage. You know, I'm tempted. I'll just play the beginning of the montage of her saying, and let me just say this real quick. I love that Karine Jean-Pierre is coming out with a book in October, because that means this is part of the conversation for another 4 or 5 months. And we should never remember how bad it was, because you're not going to like everything Trump does. You're not going to like anything. Even like the president, your ideal president is going to let you down at some point.
Yeah.
And you're not going to like something. But compare it to Biden, and I like what Trump is doing. Here's a montage. And we'll just a little bit. There's 2 minutes and 40 seconds of this. There's a whole bunch of clips of her peddling misinformation about Biden's cognitive decline.
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
Don, you're asking me this question. Oh my gosh, he's the president of the United States. You know, I can't even keep up with it. We just got back from New Mexico. We just got back from California. That is not a question that we should be even asking.
Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? She must not be here.
No, I totally understand. I just explained she was on top of mind.
The book is suggesting the president tells aides he's tired.
But that's in the excerpt, right?
Yeah, and that
that's why there have been so few public events before 10 a.m.
I mean, that's a
Okay, I'm just going to stop right there because there's so many things that just that brought up. One of them, I have a friend who I would have forgotten about the gaffes. I mean, some of the gaffes that Biden has done over the years, they're so outlandish, but they were so often that you forget about them. But I have a really good friend who just will be whatever. We'll be playing golf or something. He'll be like, "Where's Jackie? Where's Jackie?" And he's referring to when President Biden was asking about Jackie, who was dead, wasn't she?
Yes.
She was.
It was a memorial service for her.
Oh yeah, he goes, "Where's Jackie? You're at the memorial
She's like,
service,
it's top of mind." Why was that? Why was
Corinne Jean-Pierre's spin is, well, it was top of mind. Yeah, it certainly would have been. But the call in the lid every day at 1 o'clock, sometimes earlier, 11 o'clock.
Wouldn't start until 10.
Annie was just in Washington, and I don't remember if this story came from her trip to Washington or if we were talking about it around that time, but she was in Media Row, and that's a thing. That's a bunch of media people stay in this. They call it Pebble Beach because it's just a bunch of tents outside the White House. And they have their kind of operations set up there. And they go in the press room and they wait for people to walk out. And anytime you see somebody, this was news to me, anytime you see somebody standing out on that road next to the White House lawn, and there's not an interview with them.
Right.
It's just a clip of them talking. It's because they chose to walk out and just stand in front of the microphone.
Yes.
And say, "Okay, press, let's go."
That's Pebble Beach.
That's Pebble Beach. And so the press all is kind of camped out there, really waiting sharks to be like, give me some quotes.
Somebody come out here and talk to me.
Yeah, Tom Homan will walk out there. You see Stephen Miller walk out there all the time. He just loves it.
He's like an orchestra.
And you will see Donald Trump walk out there. You see J.D. Vance once in a while walk out
Levitt.
there. So that's what that is. But what they said was, and I don't know if they told this directly to Annie or she just kind of picked this up or what it was, but they said that the press had gotten so used to having early days that keeping up with the Trump administration, they're all tired because it is constant, because the lid would be called so early on most days that they'd all kind of pack up and go home. And Congress was out a lot for the weekends. It was an easy job during the Biden administration because they didn't have to do a lot because nobody was really walking out there and talking to them. Yeah. I mean, think about that. Think about how many times in the Biden administration, if you know what I'm talking about, if you don't, you're like, I can't picture that. So I get that. But if you can picture that scene with that little road behind them, it kind of curves, it's the White House road, and then the lawn. How many times in the Biden administration do you see people from his cabinet out there?
I can't think of any I can think of times where there are certain advisors doing interviews with Fox News hosts in front of the White House.
They were controlled.
But to walk out, because I remember you'll see footage of it. You watch the footage and it's the person walking down the steps, sidewalk, and then to the thing.
Yeah.
Tom Homan's usually holding a coffee. Carolyn Levitt usually has, her associate deputy press secretary, her assistant with her. They'll come out there and they're going out there with the purpose of doing that. So it's not like they're caught walking in or anything like that. They're actually going out there. I cannot think of a single instance where the Biden administration walked out to meet the press for an impromptu press conference like that.
And a lot of times they have a topic in mind.
Yes.
They're like, look, I need to get this out there to people. I'm relying on you to do so. I understand you're going to spin it, but at least you're going to hear directly from me, and you can play the clip, and they'll grab some random clip that doesn't actually convey that. They know that. But they're all really good communicators, and so they're out there talking. Lately, I heard that Tom Homan was on the Mark Cox Morning Show, and Carolyn Levitt was, I think, today too. And they're out there doing press about the big, beautiful bill.
Yes.
Because they're wanting to pressure the Senate right now to pass it. Stephen Miller's out there saying the same stuff. And these are people that work for the White House.
Yes.
So, of course, they're going to be on board with Trump's big, beautiful bill. There is a memorandum going out right now. Everybody go support this. And I read to you in that first segment the 50 points from Charlie Kirk that are in the big, beautiful bill. There's a lot in there. It covers everybody. You could really have every member of the cabinet out there talking about it because the spending covers everything. So that's what they're doing. And you didn't see it during the Biden administration. Interested in this book. We got to take a quick break, though, because we got Deroy Murdock coming up next. And we are going to keep on that topic a little bit here. Who's right on the big, beautiful bill, Trump or Elon? He is going to suggest to us a way that we could maybe solve this topic, this conundrum that we're in. So stick around. Deroy Murdock coming up next.
Find out what we're made of.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show.
You can't count.
The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
And I know when I need it, I can count.
Michael's Flooring Outlet has the very best in quality products, and you've heard me talk about the Techwood Plus line of flooring and why it is so wonderful with truly natural visuals. It has a dimensional stability that is a show-stopping piece, and they have long-lasting finishes on this Techwood product. So if you're looking for a great wood type of flooring in your home, Michael's Flooring Outlet can deliver the very best in products available to you. But also, not without sacrificing good value. The customer service of a family-owned and operated business that has successfully been in operation for decades here in St. Louis, that's when you reach out to Michael's Flooring Outlet and you understand why they've been so successful. Because people like you who care about your hard-earned dollar, but also care about quality products, you want to invest that dollar smartly, they go to Michael's Flooring Outlet. You can go visit them in person at one of their 3 locations. In St. Charles County, you can go to West County. You can also visit them in Darden Prairie, but you can start online right now at igotfloor.com.
One of the things with running is I want to enjoy the run, but I never made it very far because the arches in my feet just killed me. So when I got to the end of my rope and I said I have to do something to get rid of the pain, and a couple people recommended the Good Feet store to me. I loved how I could go in and get a free personalized arch support fitting. They put that time, that work, that effort into helping you find the right arch supports. And you can walk around this store with these in your shoes and try them out before you purchase them. So after I got my arch supports, the arches on my feet stopped hurting and the pain instantly, literally instantly went away. So if you have pain, go. Find a Good Feet store and go. There is an answer. Find the simple solution that will get rid of your pain. I'm Rondi, and that's my Good Feet story.
See how Good Feet arch supports work for you before you buy with a free fitting and test walk at the Good Feet store.
Visit one of our 2 locations, Creve Coeur and Shiloh, Illinois, and at goodfeet.com.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service is celebrating 55 years of residential and commercial service, maintenance, and installation of heating and cooling systems. Get in your comfort zone. Visit aircomfortservice.com.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Follow Annie on X at Annie Frey Show.
This is Ryan Wiggins filling in for Annie Frey. Always glad to get to talk to Deroy Murdock, a nationally syndicated columnist, Project 21 ambassador, and Fox News contributor. Hi, Deroy.
Hey there, how are you? Good to talk to you.
So the topic of the big, beautiful bill is actually what we're talking about almost exclusively today. We have a poll about it. I'll ask you that question in just a second. But you have an article in the Daily Signal that is all about returning to 2019 budgets. Would that solve everything, just returning to the 2019 budget?
Well, I'm not sure if it solved everything, but it sure would help. And this is an idea that's been discussed over the years, which is going back to the 2019 budget. And why the 2019 budget? That's the budget that Congress passed before COVID, when we had, in the fall of 2019, no idea that within a few months you'd have a global pandemic, you'd have the entire country shut down, everybody staying home, businesses, restaurants shut down, airlines empty. I mean, the complete catastrophe we all experienced 5 years ago. And so COVID, thankfully, is behind us. That's in the rearview mirror, aside from the people running around still continue to wear masks for, I don't know, whatever reason. But apart from them, we're all, we've got COVID behind us. So why don't we go back to the 2019 budget? Now, if you go all the way back to what we spent in 2019 and said, let's spend in fiscal year 2026 what we spent in fiscal year 20, we would have to cut $565 billion in 1 year. And then every subsequent year, you have to cut probably about that much. And that's a lot. If you're a hardcore libertarian, that's probably easy to do. But for most people, that's, a bit much to swallow. But what if we went back to the 2019 budget and asked the question, what did they expect us to spend in fiscal year 2026 back then before COVID-19 kicked in? And if you do that, instead of spending $1.89 trillion like we have currently as a forecast for next year, we'd be spending 1.62, and basically you'd save rather $275 billion. That's a lot of savings, $275 billion. And between fiscal years 2026 through 2029, you'd save a grand total of $1.16 trillion. That's quite a lot of money, and that would, I think, make the big beautiful bill much more beautiful, and hopefully would alleviate a lot of concerns that people like Senator Rand Paul and obviously you've seen today Elon Musk saying the bill spends too much and is way too fat and profligate. This would trim it down big time. And this, by the way, is just looking at discretionary spending. That doesn't include defense. That doesn't include Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. Maybe it makes sense to reduce things in those areas, but this is just looking strictly at domestic discretionary spending. And you might have to reduce the budgets for the EPA or the Smithsonian or public broadcasting or the National Endowment for the Arts or whatever it might be. But I think that would get us much more quickly onto the path of fiscal sanity and fiscal restraint than we are right now.
You know, Deroy, in the first segment of the show today, I listed a bunch of the good things about the big beautiful bill because I'm really more on the we've got to balance the budget side. But I acknowledge that there's a lot of good in this bill, and it sounds like you've done a lot of research on this bill as well. I'm surprised, as somebody who just considers themselves a comedy writer, how much I like looking at fiscal topics. But here we are, and the one thing that I keep coming back to in looking at all of this is that it's almost designed to be so bulky and difficult to understand that the average person, even like you and I, who this is our profession, we're invested in looking at this stuff. It's still so hard to understand how all the spending works and where it's allocated that a proposal like you're making right now makes much more sense because it's basic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, which is probably why it's not going to happen because it makes so much sense, right?
Right.
You come up with a good idea, and then, hey, great idea. That'll never take place. We'll cross our fingers and see if this happens. But I think part of the reason the bill is so complex, in part, is that we have such a narrow majority in the House, just 3 seats or 3-4 seats, and in the Senate, the same thing. And so you have a lot of people who can say, look, I'm going to stand in the way of this train unless I get X, Y, Z. And, if you are 1/3 of what's required to shut the bill down completely, you'll have a lot of sway. So, for example, this is why you've had a small number of Republican congressmen in the House from the Northeast, from the big, Democrat tax and spend states, saying we want our SALT, our state and local tax deductions back, or we're not going to pass this bill. And so that got thrown in. I think the current law says you can write off $10,000 of your state and local taxes against your federal income, federal 1040 form. That's now gone up to $40,000, so that's increased fourfold. I think if you had a big enough majority, they could say, hey, that's a cute idea. No, we don't need your help. Thank you. And even with them standing in the way, you'd still have enough votes to pass. But with these very, very tight majorities we have, a lot of people are getting their way. I think generally speaking, what you want to have is as few loopholes and deductions and exemptions as possible. And in return, you push the rates down as far as you can. That's what we ought to be doing. The other thing that's not in the House bill that should be in the Senate bill, the great idea that President Trump had on the campaign trail last year, which is if you are a company operating in the United States and you manufacture in the United States, your corporate tax won't be 21% like it is now. It'll go all the way down to 15%. And that would move the United States from, I think, the 24th lowest corporate tax around the world down to the 6th lowest. So we only cheaper, only lower corporate tax would be Switzerland, Poland, Lithuania, Ireland, and Hungary. Hungary being the lowest at 9%, and then Switzerland's at 19.6. We'd be actually tied with Switzerland at 19.6, combined federal and state. And that would make us extremely competitive. You'd have a lot of companies saying, you know what, we're not going to go overseas. We're going to stay right here in the good old USA. And you'd see companies overseas saying, you know what, we can save a lot of money if we pull out of China, pull out of wherever else, and move into the U.S. and manufacture there. So this would be a gigantic booster shot for the U.S. economy. And for whatever reason, the House Republicans did not put that in there. The Senate Republicans should put that in there. And that'll make this definitely a much bigger and more beautiful bill.
Deroy Murdock on the phone with us, nationally syndicated columnist, Project 21 ambassador, Fox News contributor. Let me ask you a real nuts and bolts question here, somebody who is looking into this topic. You said about your article, specifically about the 2019 budget, this is returning to that budget with discretionary spending. Describe discretionary spending, because I think we get lost in some of the things that you really can't change in a budget. Is that right? That really discretionary is the stuff you can change the most?
Yeah. This is where we political and economic geeks get deep into the weeds here. So this scares some people, and others like us, it gets us really excited. Anyway, the idea of discretionary spending is as compared to mandatory spending. Mandatory spending are the entitlements: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Perhaps to a degree, you'd say veterans benefits. Those are things where people have been promised money, and there's a cultural, almost sacred a bond between society and the recipients that they're going to get this money that they've been promised, either because they're senior citizens, they've done what they're supposed to, and they finally retired, or they put on the uniform, fought for America either overseas or served in the United States, and then they deserve the veterans benefits that they've earned. That's mandatory spending. When it comes to discretionary spending, that's stuff where there's no entitlement, and it's really kind of up to Congress to decide whether we ought to be spending money on things like medical research, things like arts programs like PBS or the Smithsonian, or support for art galleries, things like education, a lot of other stuff like that, where it's up to Congress to say, okay, we like this program, we're going to spend on it, or we've had enough, no more Green New Deal, no more solar subsidies, whatever else it might be. So most of it's much easier to cut discretionary spending, because if you go after mandatory spending, that's where people feel like we've made a solemn promise to them and we've gone ahead and broken it. Now, there's a big exception to this that took place some years ago, which is when Obamacare was launched. The Democrats, who always say the Republicans, oh, you're desperately trying to cut Medicare and kill grandma and kill grandpa. The Democrats went in, and I think the number was $800 billion. They just yanked wholly, like armed robbery, yanked out of Medicare and took that money and threw it into Obamacare. And this is the biggest rate I've ever seen on Medicare. It was not done by the greedy, nasty, cold-hearted, evil Republicans. It was done by the warm, toasty, loving, compassionate, caring Democrats. And the Democrats went in, and they're the ones who yanked $800 billion out of grandma and grandpa's Medicare funds and said, hell with them. Let's throw this into Obamacare. They paid no political price for it. The left-wing media barely covered it. Very few people know about this, and they totally got away with it. And if you're a Republican, you so much as say, let's have one hearing and talk about possible efficiencies in Medicare, then, oh my God, you're trying to kill old people. Why do you hate seniors? Were you this mean to your parents when they turned 65? And this is the kind of double standard and hypocrisy and outright lies that you get on a daily basis from the Democrat Party.
Well, Deroy, we really appreciate your time as usual and your insights into these things. Love the article, and I love the idea that maybe we could actually return to a budget pre-COVID. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So thanks.
Wouldn't that be nice? Good. Yeah. Well, spread the word. It's great to be on with you today, and enjoy the weekend.
All right, will do. That's Deroy Murdock. He is a Fox News contributor. You see him on there pretty regularly. I wanted to ask him the poll question, but we just kind of ran out of time. But if you haven't asked yourself this question, I encourage you to do so. And then if you want to vote, you can. We have it up to date on our YouTube page. You type in Mannie Frey, you go to YouTube, and you will see today's date with this question and the live stream. You'll see us talking right now live. Who is right on the big, beautiful bill, Trump or Elon? This is a topic that splits even our room, I think, because if I'm speaking on behalf of Brad, I would say that I think he would say Trump is right.
I'm on that side more.
You're on that side. I would say Elon is right. Elon is speaking, I think, to sum this up, a little bit more in theory and in moving the conversation toward we have to talk about balancing this budget or else we are friggin' toast. We will not recover if we continue to spend beyond the means that we have right now. Now, he's not offering as many specifics on how to get there. So I get why people would criticize and say, oh, well, yeah, you can stand on your podium all you want, but ultimately we got to get the work done.
Let's have a plan. I like the idea of having a plan. Saying, nobody is arguing the fact that we need to cut spending. Nobody's arguing that fact.
Democrats are.
Well,
they don't care about cutting spending.
Good point. I stand corrected. But nobody on in this debate amongst Republicans is saying that we don't need to cut spending. Everybody agrees that we need to cut spending. So it seems to me that the debate is over how quickly do we need to and have to do it. And I don't think that we have to do it as fast as you're suggesting, and I think that there are other methods that we can do that will do it. but I don't think that this bill needed to be the vehicle that happens in.
You know, I'm just realizing as we're talking that probably, let's say 20 years ago, but 30 years ago is probably more accurate and beyond that. This debate that is happening now is really just among Republicans. Democrats are not a part of it at all.
Not at all.
They're just a no. They don't care.
No. Tax and spend. Their plan is to tax the rich and then spend that money as well.
And it's funny because you can see them in the media, like you can see leftist media saying, well, Trump's bill will add X amount to the deficit. And you're like, you don't care.
They don't care unless they can hit you with it.
You don't care.
It's like, ooh, here's a stick.
But that debate used to be between Republicans and Democrats coming together and say, let's form a budget.
Yeah.
Democrats are not a part of that discussion at all anymore. And you could say the same thing in reverse during the Biden era, that Republicans weren't a part of that conversation. But there's nobody, and this is why I'm with Elon Musk generally in this debate that we're having, is that nobody other than somebody like him, maybe Rand Paul or Chip Roy or Massey, are out there saying, listen, Overton window, we've got to shift the whole conversation to a balanced budget is a priority. Even if you don't get there, we got to at least acknowledge that has to happen. If this isn't the moment, I'm skeptical that they'll ever get there, but it has to happen.
And even like Deroy's article there, it's about going to 2019 pre-COVID spending, which was also, deficit spending. The 2019 budget was was in
We've
the
been
deficit.
spending more than we're making forever.
My question, and I don't want to take us too long here, but my question is can we get there? Do we have to propose like a balanced budget in a reconciliation bill, or can we get to that balanced budget by cutting the spending through rescissions packages and stuff like that?
I don't know why you wouldn't just include it all in one. I mean,
part of it is you can't do it. Some of these cuts legally in the recession or in the reconciliation package. There are limitations to that. Part of that reason is that.
And that's fine, but I don't think the Doge cuts have gotten deep enough.
No, they haven't.
That they would actually do what we need them to do. But you got to codify what you can,
right?
And then rescission, but the math still doesn't math out. It still doesn't get
Well, how
there.
much do you need to cut out of what has been passed in this bill? Because I do one of the things that I really do agree with is funding and rebuilding our military.
Well, that's part of this. I mean, that's in the 50 great things about the big beautiful bill. Part of that is military pay raises and benefit boosts.
Yeah,
that's going to cost money for that. That costs money. National Missile Defense, the Golden Dome is in there. These are things I didn't even mention when we went through the first time. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. And I'll close on this. It's really hard to say, especially as a layman. I'm looking from the outside, and I really would like to sit there and look at a line item and go through it, but I don't even know half of what I'm looking at.
And that's about the only way that you can do what you want to do, is to go through it line by line and figuring out what can be cut and what is necessary to keep in there, because you do have to spend some money in the budget.
That's why I elect a representative, is to go do that. But there's different estimates as to what it's going to cost and when it's going to cost what. Like the House Budget Committee, they say that this reduces the deficit by 75%, which means you go from $2 trillion extra into the deficit every year to about $500 billion.
That's a good direction, though.
It's good direction, but it's still $500 billion more than you're making. So you're still putting us into debt. But over 10 years, their projection is, yes, but that would decrease, and then you come up with a budget surplus.
Yeah.
But
congressional math.
It's congressional math. And that's the good numbers.
And that's if you keep the budget at what it is for those 10 years, but because of elections and stuff like that, the budget changes every year.
It won't be that in 5 years. So the hard stuff comes late when it won't happen. So that's Congress always does this. But the Congressional Budget Office projections are worse. They say, it'll do about what you're saying in the first year. We can kind of agree that it would reduce it by 75%, but it won't reduce it as much over 10 years as you think it will. And Congressional Budget Office is mostly Democrats, and so they're going to say, well, it's all partisan. The House Budget Committee knows more than the CBO does, and all that stuff, and that's all part of it. But my point is that it's really hard to figure out without a representative in Congress telling you what could be cut, what can be done. That's why you follow people like Chip Roy and Massey for me, because they can say, this is a thing that we need to do. And you go, that sounds good. Do that thing. But overall, you got your Musk saying you have to get it to zero. Don't spend more than you're making. Otherwise, we're never going to stop into the debt spiral, and your kids are going to be, your currency is going to basically implode, is what they're saying. We've never seen it happen. So we're all kind of like, we're fine. It's the U.S. dollar. It's the reserve currency. We've also never been $37 trillion in debt. So anyway, let's take a short break. We'll be right back with more of the Mannie Frey Show.
This is the Mannie Frey Show. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
Why do the national tax resolution firms need the tiny fine print at the bottom of all their TV ads? Hi, this is Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm. You don't hear fast-talking disclaimers in our ads because the claims we make are 100% transparent. The Lance Drury Law Firm primarily focuses on one thing, IRS problems, and we're regulated by the Bar Association, and we have a AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau. IRS issues are serious legal issues. The Lance Drury Law Firm has helped thousands of clients navigate the best resolution plans, and we tell you up front exactly how much it'll cost. Tax resolution law is all we do. So before you send money to some out-of-town, high-pressure salesperson, give us a call at the Lance Drury Law Firm, located right here in St. Louis. Call today to schedule your free consultation with me, 314-260-6120, or visit lance.drurylaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Here's the hard truth. Every 6 years, your dollar loses half its buying power. That means a $100,000 savings account today could feel like $50,000 by 2031. And you see it every time you fill up your tank, buy groceries, or pay the bills. Prices are up. Your dollar is down. But there's a simple way to protect the value of your savings with something real, something proven. Gold. An asset that holds its value over time. That's why I trust Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to protect your savings with physical gold or silver. No high-pressure sales, no call centers, just honest guidance, one-on-one support, and transparent pricing. And right now, when you open a qualified account, Noble Gold will send you a free 10-ounce silver American flag bar as a thank you. Head to noblegoldinvestments.com today to learn more. That's noblegoldinvestments.com.
Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been for us, for anybody, because you'll get a true partnership and you'll be able to rest easy that you're going to get the service that you need while they're also doing all those things that you don't want to have to think about, that you don't want to have to worry about. They're always doing that in the background for you.
Don't wait for your next IT crisis. If your business depends on technology, you need a partner that's got your back. Contact ThrottleNet.com to get a free IT evaluation and see how we can support your IT everything.
If you've listened to 97.1 FM Talk, you've heard of Doug Voss of Voss Financial and Safe Money Radio, as he has been a staple as the financial expert on the station for many years. You can hear him on Safe Money Radio every Saturday at 2, right here on 97.1 FM Talk, and you can talk to Doug Voss directly. Here's his number. Call Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That is 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
If it's time for new windows, there's only one place to call. That is Window World. Mark Cox here. Call my friends at Window World at 314-993-1800 for your free estimate today. If you have any questions, they'll be glad to send someone out to explain all of it to you. You can even schedule right online at windowworldstl.com. You know, there's a lot of high-interest financing out there, but here's what Window World's doing. Right now, they're offering 18 up to 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. You can't beat that. You also get a lifetime warranty that covers all of the parts, the glass breakage, and labor. Who else stands behind their product like that? Over half the appointments Window World will set this year are from previous customers or referrals from those customers. That is a testimony to their customer service, their quality, and their commitment to creating loyal customers. That's what you get with Window World. Call them at 314-993-1800, windowworldstl.com.
Lifestyles Unlimited, the education and mentoring group with a roadmap and support to help you real estate retire.
Having the consulting team, having other avenues within your whole system is what's made y'all successful. Everyone is there to guide you to be successful. So it's just up to you to get off the butt and do it.
Do it. Take action today. Get educated now at Lifestyles Unlimited. Text the word radio to 88007. That's radio to 88007. Join for $297, a 60% savings. Lifestyles Unlimited. Text radio to 88007.
Today's YouTube live chat poll: who is right on the big beautiful bill, Trump or Elon? Jump on Annie's YouTube page and vote. Tell us why you voted the way you voted. YouTube.com/@AnnieFrey. Vote in the poll. Leave us a comment telling us why you voted the way you voted. We might read that comment on air. The time is 1:49. This time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
On-time news. On your time. Your time. Download the Odyssey app and dip in whenever you want. And stay on top of what's happening. 97.1 FM Talk on the Odyssey app. Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show. The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Well, I've been on vacation, so that liner really worked with Ryan Recker filling in too. Brad and Ryan Recker for the last roughly week. And now Ryan Wiggins and Brad in studio filling in for the next couple days until the whole team is back together. Monday, right? We're all here Monday?
I think no, not Monday.
Am I still hosting Monday?
Yes.
That's news to me.
Wednesday.
Well, I'm glad I'm finding this out now. All right.
Everybody's been assuming Monday, and I've been telling everybody no.
Okay.
Not until the 11th.
I will be with you for another few days. Hopefully you like the show today. I just got back from vacation, and it was interesting because we went to a couple places. Now, one of them, Ocracoke Island, if you've never heard of this place, it is part of the Outer Banks. And I'm not familiar with the TV show, but everybody, when I say the Outer Banks, they're like, oh, like the show. And I'm like, I have no clue what that show is. It's like a teen show, like CW type show about treasure hunting or something.
Is it like Dawson's Creek?
I think so, but also National Treasure. Like Dawson's Creek means National Treasure.
That sounds awful.
That's what I've heard. I've still never seen the show. I have zero desire to do so. If you are a teen girl and you are listening to the Annie Frey Show, my apologies to you, because you probably love that show. But we went to the Outer Banks, and Ocracoke Island is completely inaccessible by bridge, I should say, because you can take a ferry to the island. That is the only way to get there. There are multiple ferries that go to the island, but the shortest one is an hour. And then we took one on the way back that was 3 hours long, a 3-hour-long ferry ride. And it's kind of fun, but it's like way, way out there. And it was a really cool little trip because it's an old fisherman's village. And I said this before, and Brad, you're like, oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Blackbeard the pirate.
Yeah.
Crash landed there. Well, he went there several times.
Yeah, Edward Teach.
But that's also where he crashed and died. Was on Ocracoke Island.
Oh, I didn't know that he died on because the legend is that when they caught him and when they killed him, they cut his head off and threw his body into the ocean. It swam around the boat 3 times.
I heard that while I was there.
Yeah. There's all sorts of legends around him. But that was off that island where the British caught him. Was it the British?
I don't know the whole story. I just saw little landmarkers for where he did certain things, and they told us to go to this place called Springer's Point, which is apparently where he crash landed and died.
Yeah, his boat ran aground, and that's how they got him.
Mm-hmm. And they, so that's that. we started walking out to Springer's Point, and we had done a lot of walking that day, and we got about halfway out, and we're like, yeah, is there? There's people coming the other way, and we're like, is there anything like out there to see? And they're like, no, it's just a beach. We're like, okay.
So they don't have like a fake boat out
They
there?
don't have anything. They don't have like a little treasure chest that you open and it's like Blackbeard was here or something, you know?
Yeah.
And they're like, no.
You
So-
just kind of look out in the water and use your imagination.
So all of us kind of looked at each other and went, anybody really want to go out there? And everybody said, let's turn around. So we didn't even go to the spot. We made it most of the way there.
Now, if you had a car, would you have gone all the way out there?
Well, yes.
See, Europeans think you're weird because of that.
But on Ocracoke Island, I didn't even get to like the real stuff. We did some American history stuff. I want to talk about that at some point. But on Ocracoke Island, most people just have a golf cart and they drive the golf cart around the island. And it's super fun because it's lots of little shops and there is not a single chain store there. In fact, they probably aren't allowed. And the weird thing is, they really embraced the Blackbeard thing. We stayed at Blackbeard's hotel. It was it's like $250 a night for some old fisherman hotel.
It's like St. Augustine and the Fountain of Youth.
Exactly. And it's a beautiful place, awesome beach, you know, and the ferry ride's fun to get there. So you feel like you're really out somewhere else. But driving around that golf cart, you realize this is not really a big place. And and here's what's really unique. I started talking to one of our salespeople, Charlie, here about this right before the show. He said, "Oh, where'd you go?" I told him Ocracoke. Well, a lot of people have never heard of Ocracoke before. I hadn't, but my wife was an anthropology major and she studied it in college. And so back 25 years ago, she said, "Oh, this is really cool." And the reason they study it in anthropology is because there really is only about 1,000 people that live there.
Yeah.
But tons of tourists now.
Yeah.
And at that time, so 25 years ago, they said there's an accent there that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And it's the Ocracoke accent. They don't even have a name for it. It's just what it is. And it's a mixture of English, American English, Irish, and Scottish. And they call it this brogue, which is the Irish Scottish thing. And she said, I'm desperate to hear that accent. And I said, honey, it's been 25 years. If it was dying off then, I don't think you're going to be able to find anybody to hear it here now. So we're driving around that golf cart. The kids love it. It's so fun. And we stop at this little bitty store, and we go in, and it's not even a store. It's just a guy's house. And the living room, kitchen, 2 bedrooms, bathroom, they're all full of stuff. Like it's an antique shop, but it's just his bathroom. It was cool. And we start talking to this guy, and I thought, he sounds kind of funny. And he showed us he has the only private collection of Blackbeard's stuff. He has like a pipe and a cannonball. He says it's the only private collection in the world. And I've got it right there in that case. He said it's not for sale. He told us all about it. He told us stories and stuff. We walk away, and he goes, and my wife goes, "Did you notice the accent?" And I said, well, I noticed something, but I couldn't really tell what was going on. And she said, that was the brogue. And she was so excited that this guy who had been living on this island his whole life, as far as I know, and he had inherited all this cool stuff, this Blackbeard stuff. And he was telling us stories about it in that accent that literally only exists with maybe 1,000 people in the world on that island. And we got to hear it, and we got to hear stories in it, and I didn't even realize it was happening until we left. And I said, how did you know that was that accent? And she said, well, there's only a few words that I had heard how they pronounced them. Mm-hmm. And when I heard him say one of them, now he didn't say this one, but I said, well, say one for me. And she said, well, instead of saying high tide, they would say hoy-toid. But they speak English generally other than that. And so she said a couple words, and she was beaming. Like, oh my gosh, like bucket list item fulfilled, that we walked into this guy's house that was an antique shop, and she got to hear all that on Ocracoke Island. Anyway, maybe later we'll talk about our visit to the American history part of our vacation. But we'll be right back. It's the top of the hour.
Savings at Ruler Foods, as simple as 1, 2, 3. First off, let's talk about the savings that you can enjoy shopping at Ruler Foods on Michelina's dinners, Van Camp's pork and beans, or Kroger mustard, just $1 each. 2, you can save on Kroger steak sauce, burger sauce, or wing sauce, just $2. And 3, you can cool off with Kroger ice cream bars or top it off with Ready Whip, just $3. That's right. Savings made simple at Ruler Foods. Don't pay more. Shop smart and save big. You can fill your grocery cart up in the store for less. You can buy the name brands that you love or the Kroger brands at Ruler Foods prices when you shop in store or when you shop online. Did you know if you go to rulerfoods.com that you can have a delivery schedule? So you can have those Ruler Food savings that you loved conveniently shipped directly to your door. With Instacart delivery from Ruler Foods, you can skip the grocery store and get everything delivered right to you and fast. Ruler Foods and Instacart delivery, that's a smart summer. Save at Ruler Foods, rulerfoods.com.
Get this, 42% of baby boomers don't even know how much money they have in their nest egg. If you're not sure where you stand in terms of getting ready for retirement, you should be listening to the All Financial Hour with Steve All.
Let's sit down and talk about your questions, because I think that's the most important thing that it is out there. It's what questions do you have?
Tune in to the All Financial Hour with Steve All, Saturday mornings at 6, right here on 97.1 FM Talk.
Hey guys, it's Mark Reardon. If you're struggling with low energy, performance issues, or weight gain, Game Day Men's Health has got you covered with testosterone therapy, ED treatments, and more in all of a relaxed man cave environment. At Game Day, you'll get a free testosterone test and consultation, all in just 1 hour. Game Day is the premier men's health clinic with locations in Chesterfield, O'Fallon, Missouri, and Glen Carbon, Illinois. Visit GameDayMen'sHealth.com. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Get back in the game with Game Day Men's Health.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
They agree Russia started the war. Lisa Brady, Fox News. That from Germany's chancellor after a White House meeting with President Trump, who still isn't ruling out sanctions on Russia. When he says it reaches the point, it appears the fighting with Ukraine won't stop. But also telling reporters during an Oval Office meeting earlier,
will be very, very, very tough. And it could be on both countries, to be honest. You know, it takes two to tango. But we're going to be very tough. Whether it's Russia or anybody else, we're going to be very tough. That's a bloodbath that's going on over there.
The two leaders also focusing on trade after an earlier Trump call with China's president and an announcement U.S.-China trade talks would resume. President Trump just posting that Elon Musk went crazy after subsidies for electric vehicles were taken away and that he asked him to leave.
And, you know, Elon's upset because we took the EV mandate and, you know, which was a lot of money for electric vehicles. And, you know, they're having a hard time, the electric vehicles, and they want us to pay billions of dollars in subsidy.
This as Musk continues his criticism of the House-passed Trump agenda bill, posting that oil and gas subsidies weren't touched. A Washington state sheriff has a message for the father accused of killing his 3 young daughters as a manhunt continues.
We're not giving up. We're not going away. Peyton, Olivia, and Evelyn deserve justice. The Decker family deserves justice. And this is evil, and we're not going to tolerate it here in our county. And Travis, we are coming for you.
Chelan County Sheriff Mike Morrison telling Fox U.S. Marshals and the FBI are assisting with the search. The girls' bodies were found Monday near a campground after a planned visitation with their father. Fox 13 in Seattle reporting Travis Decker has a pending disciplinary discharge from the Washington National Guard for not showing up to monthly drills. 2 other lengthy manhunts continue for a former Arkansas police chief turned killer and for 2 inmates still on the run from a jail in New Orleans. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, it's Mike Rowe, and if you want to do business with a company that actually stands for something, switch to Pure Talk. I did. Sure, I appreciate being on America's most dependable 5G network with unlimited talk and text for just $20 a month, but what I really appreciate is Pure Talk's commitment to our military and to our skilled workforce. That matters to me. Save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
No one wants to leave behind stress for their family. That's why a trust or a will is so important. Without one, your assets might go to the wrong people or leave out loved ones. Also, probate is long, expensive, and often avoidable with a revocable trust. Trustandwill.com makes it simple to create a personalized estate plan. A trust or will provides clarity and peace of mind. Get 20% off on your estate plan documents by visiting trustandwill.com/radio.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Not a lot of action as we go through our Thursday afternoon. Mostly cloudy skies. I'll keep a chance of a spot shower, a thunder shower, but very, very limited. 83 for the high. Maybe a spot shower after midnight tonight, 67. The atmosphere gets cooking again on Friday. Periods of rain and thunderstorms. Some could be severe. St. Louis south on Friday. 79 for the high. It's warmer over the weekend. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Hey guys, Glover here with my very, very good friend, Dr. Kathy Maupin at BioBalanceHealth.com. If you have reached that certain age and you're just not feeling very well and nothing's working the way it used to work, go see Dr. Kathy. She is not only a medical doctor, she is a patient of this bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. It absolutely works. It's a long-term solution. She is an artist when it comes to helping you with your hormones. BioBalanceHealth.com for Dr. Kathy Maupin.
Step outside and fall in love with your backyard again. From inviting porch overhangs to durable composite decks and cozy screen rooms, Lakeside Renovation and Design creates stunning outdoor living spaces designed for relaxation, entertaining, and making memories. With expert craftsmanship and top-quality materials, your new outdoor oasis will be perfect for every season. Call Lakeside Renovation and Design today or visit lakesiderd.com to get started. Let's turn your backyard into the retreat you've always dreamed of.
This is attorney Todd Nissenholtz of Kaufman Townsley. We know the loss and the cost of an accident because when an insurance company offers a lowball settlement, we go to war for you and take the fight to the insurance company. Call 314-500-5000.
Hold up a sec. If I work today, why should I have to wait 2 weeks to get my money? With Earnin, you can access your pay as you work instead of waiting days and weeks for a paycheck. Get up to $150 a day with a max of $750 between paydays. No interest, no credit checks, and no mandatory fees. Because, hey, it's your money. Download the Earnin app now to get it and join millions of people making any day payday. That's EARNIN. Earnin is not a bank. Access limits are based on your earnings and risk factors available in select states. Expedited transfer is available for a fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Visit earnin.com for full details.
Gain peace of mind that your flooring and carpet installation will be done right the first time when you hire the experts at Michael's Flooring Outlet. They give all their clients attentive personal service, even bring toys for the kids of the household. It's a family-owned and operated business for 25-plus years. They make sure you make the right choice for your home. So if you have carpets or hard floors, you're going to be happy for years to come. 3 convenient locations in St. Charles County, 116 Main Street, in Old Town St. Peters at Mid-Rivers and Highway 70, in West County on Olive, and the store in Darden Prairie. Michael's Flooring Outlet, IGotFloor.com.
Is thinning hair or receding hairline making you self-conscious? Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Oh, yeah, here's the moment you have been waiting for.
Don't get me wrong. I love the ladies. They rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom.
Andy's out. Ryan and Brad are in.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
This is the Mannie Frey Show.
Hey, this is Ryan Wiggins back from vacation and just talking about it a little bit in the last segment there at the end of the hour. You can always get the podcast if you'd like to by typing in the Mannie Frey Show. Sometime after the show, we'll have that up for you. I'm going to get the peanut gallery in here. We're going to get Ethan and Drew to come in here because I want to talk about a couple of pop culture items. The first one, I'll just float this out as they make their way in here whenever they're ready to, is that gamers are waiting in lines for hours for the new Nintendo Switch 2. Did you even know there was a Switch 2 coming out?
Yes, I recently saw this. Yeah, I recently saw it. I'm not a Nintendo gamer, but yeah, I'm aware of this.
Is that a whole thing that if you're a Nintendo
it's
guy,
the console wars, man,
it's different than if you're an Xbox guy versus a PlayStation guy?
Yeah, but the line between PlayStation guy and Xbox guy kind of gets blurred because of cross-platform play.
That's what I thought. But Nintendo's really separate, right?
They're more separate than those two are, but there are cross-platform games even for that.
Okay. So this Nintendo Switch 2, I really like the Switch 1. I liked it, the interactive games and stuff. The Switch 2 went on sale Thursday at midnight, and it's bigger than the normal Switch, and it's got better internals, so it plays better games than the old games. We can play them, but play. You can play the old games, I guess, but you can play them better as well. And one of the new ones costs $500. Is this a tariff story too, or not?
The Switch costing $500?
No, just that it's available, or that it costs $500.
I know it's controversial because Nintendo's always been the cheaper system of the three, but I don't know that it's tariff related.
Okay. Well, I'm going to play some audio here, and maybe you can just get these guys, Brad, because I don't know if I told them, come on in, and like they're busy working. Why would you work when you could come in and be on the radio? But I'm kind of far from dating at this point. I have not dated in, let's see, we got married in 2007, so we're coming up on 20 years pretty soon, 18 years right now. I haven't dated since before that. And in fact, we dated for a little while, so I wasn't even really on the dating scene since probably 2004 or 3. So that's why I'm getting you guys in here, is because you have, in the case of Ethan, you are married, but you have dated more recently than I have. It's been like 20 years since I've even been on the dating front. Drew, are you in the dating scene right now? Is that fair? Take your time.
I'm not actively looking, but
But you're out there.
He's on the market.
Sure. Okay, he's on the market, ladies.
Come on, take a look. If you're on the YouTube poll, got a nice beard, nice well-built there.
Drink it in, ladies.
He said drink it in.
And he also said nice well-built. I'm not really sure. But this is...
Look at those broad shoulders.
Hold on.
This is something that caught my attention from this weekend. I'll play these clips, and I want to see what you think about it.
Hi, I'm MAGA. And you'd actually be interested. It's the new pickup line. Young conservatives are quickly finding out that they are popular after all, even in deep blue cities like New York. There are apps like Date Right Stuff and groups like Make America Hot Again that are taking on these big blue cities. And 20 and 30-somethings who are right-wingers are finding out they no longer have to be silent about their political beliefs. Some young people actually think that values like patriotism are attractive. Women are willing to be what's called a trad wife over a girl boss, or both, and they're looking for a man who can offer them safety.
Okay, so the question being, even though it sounds like none of us in the room are really actively seeking, would you ever, let's say you were, right now, even Brad and I, let's say we were on the dating market, would you consider leading with, I'm MAGA?
Would I consider leading with that, like, to a woman?
Yes.
Probably not, no.
I don't even know if you are MAGA. So,
I mean, I lean right for sure, but I wouldn't lead with that. Like, you got to figure out where they are,
So your political beliefs in general, whether you're MAGA or not, you wouldn't lead with that, though?
No.
Absolutely not. 0% chance. No way.
I'm not sure I would either, but let me make the case for why I get why you would. Because if your political beliefs are semi-central to your overall worldview, which that's not hopefully what your entire worldview is based on the current political scene. Mm-hmm. But let's say it's fairly important to the way you view the world. You're not really going to get into let's say you're seeking a longer-term relationship too. You're not going to get into a longer-term relationship with somebody, most likely, who is way different than you politically. So if you lead with that, you're not trying to be a jerk, or you're not trying to, be like loud and proud about it, but you are saying, look here, even if you led with also I'm a Christian or also I'm whatever, you're saying here are some key tenets to the way I live life and what I believe. If you're not going to align with that at all, we probably could skip the first date.
Yeah, I thought about that like a couple of times. Like, religion's kind of different, like, because it's more your core values and it's less likely to change. I feel like your political views, if you're open, then maybe it's likely to change, especially like somebody you're potentially going to date. Maybe they're not like that into politics as much as you, so I don't know. That's definitely something I thought about, but I wouldn't lead with, religion.
I feel like in
politics.
I feel like in a lot of situations, you're not always, but you can probably get an idea after a certain amount of time of interacting with someone. Not always, but you can have an idea of where they align. So that's why I don't think it's the most important thing to throw that out there immediately. I mean, even prior to, I grew up in, when I was, just starting to kind of get into politics and understand politics was right when it was like, you can't say anything about your politics because if you do, then you're going to be slammed for it. But it's not like, and while that obviously was not good, and I think it is a good thing that people don't feel as like fearful of being judged for, their political beliefs, it's not like throughout all of like American history, people haven't in large part been private about who they vote for a long time. Like that's been a very normal thing. I mean, even going back to like, my mom used to tell me like, oh, I never had any idea she had an idea that they were like, her parents were Republicans, but she didn't know who they voted for. Like they didn't share that. And she said that even my grandfather sometimes wouldn't tell my grandmother who he voted for. Like, so, and maybe that was specific to their family, but I would imagine that that's something that has been private for a lot of people for a long time. And that's kind of just always how politics have been. And I don't know, that's not necessarily a bad thing, I don't think. I don't think it's a bad thing to share and to have discourse and dialogue, but I think that it is way over the top to be one of the first things that is being shared when, potentially having interest in someone.
Yeah, I would think I wouldn't lead with that. I do understand Ryan's point that, at some point it's going to come up in your family and in your relationship. And if you're looking to build a life with somebody, you got to have at least a general equivalent direction of where you're going, even if one is more right than the other or something like that. But I also think that that's something that'll take care of itself as you're dating. It'll work itself out. That doesn't need to be your leadoff hitter.
But don't you kind of waste some time there? Because the way that we, when we were courting our wives or dating, there was no internet. There was no like checking a couple boxes and being like, oh well, you're 5'4". I don't really care for that.
It wasn't that.
You actually met people.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying internet dating didn't exist, but it definitely wasn't the primary way you met people then. Where now it does seem like you really could check those boxes a lot easier and say, look, I don't want to waste my time with somebody, and put MAGA aside, but something that's really important to you. Why wouldn't you lead with that up front and say, these things are important, even if you're not really into them? I just want you to know that about me so that we don't waste time.
I think there's so many other things that matter about a person. Like, is somebody a good person? Just like we said, other core values you kind of have to figure out. It's kind of like the laundry list of things. Like, say, a woman's looking to date a guy, but she has like all these boxes he has to check before she even considers him. It's kind of like putting that out there and just saying like, well, I need a guy that's at least 6 foot. I need this, and this. It's kind of equivalent to saying that.
It could also depend, I think, maybe on how you're meeting the person too. For example, my wife, we had been around each other for several months before we started, pursuing a relationship, and we got to know each other. We were friends first. And like I had an idea of who she was at that point, and I was able to kind of, based off of the things that were important to her, have an idea. Now there was a point where I was like, "Hey, so like, what do you think about this?" And she was like, "Oh, I'm this." I'm like, "Oh, thank God."
Oh gosh, that'd have been a deal breaker.
But I think that it's different to approach like a situation like that with someone that I knew and was able to slowly like get to know, compared to someone maybe you're finding on a dating app and like first date. Like I think I understand maybe a little bit more so in situations like that, Ryan, where you're just like, okay, like I don't know you. It is brand new. I may as well just like throw it out there just to see if it's even worth pursuing.
Speed dating.
That it makes more sense in my eyes, I guess, to put it directly out there in those situations. Like where it's like blind dating or like a
Is it beneficial
online
now
dating.
That when we were dating, I would say Brad and I.
Okay.
We didn't actually
dated.
We were in.
He and I did not date each other.
No.
So is this why you guys were all off to start off the show? Is because you haven't been around each other?
It was complicated.
There was an argument.
But back when he and I were attempting to date our wives, and eventually, I'm assuming, did date our wives, Why did I put it that way?
Sorry,
I don't know.
Processing all this. Sorry,
but you're really your pool was smaller because now you have almost any single person in the world at your disposal to just sort of, you kind of can filter through people so much easier. But I'm not sure that's a good thing.
For who, though? Like, if your dating pool is smaller for a guy, do you think that benefits them more?
That's a good thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like you brought up the other issue, and we'll wrap here real quick. But you brought up the whole movement right now that I keep seeing online too. That I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm not a part of that because I get made fun of on this show all the time, erroneously for being short, even though I'm 5'9.5/5'10". I would say
the conspiracy theory is that you're 6'7".
That's fine. I can go with that. But if there's a box that you can check, because there really was a news story recently that one of the main dating websites is going to add a box that you can check that says nobody under this height.
You'd have been screwed.
I don't know that I would have been screwed, but the obvious opposite of that people have brought up online is to say, well, if that's women saying I want to date a guy, because you could go either way with it. You could say I want to date a woman who's 6'8". I guess you could.
Get some NBA babies.
But it's mostly women saying I want to date a guy who's 6 foot tall or whatever. Men are then saying online, well, why can't I date a girl who's under a certain weight?
No comment. Ethan?
But that's where we are.
It's the exact same idea.
It's the exact same, isn't it?
Yes.
And in fact, one of them you can control more than the other. Even if it's not fully controllable, you definitely cannot control your height. There is very little that you can do to make yourself either shorter or taller.
It is such a one-sided and stupid argument. It's okay if it is okay if you're not attracted to someone, if you think that it is more appealing for someone to be tall, right? But just understand you can't be offended if someone's not attracted to you because of your weight.
Yeah. Last comment, and we'll go to a break. Women's weight, Brett.
Women's weight. No, Ethan and Drew are spot on here.
Oh yeah, they did a great job. You can just play the music.
Yeah, they're correct. They're right. Great job, guys.
You guys are clearly having some issues. Hopefully, you can work it out during the break.
Oh no. No. It was super funny.
Come
and
on,
you
Ryan.
made it weird.
No. You made it weird.
Right.
All right, this is what you get when it's the Mannie Frey Show. We'll be right back.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show. Follow Annie on X at Annie Frey Show.
The Range St. Louis West is launching the countdown to 250 years of American freedom this July by giving away 5,000 rounds of 9mm ammo. 5 winners will get 1,000 rounds each, and winners are going to be drawn July 1st. Don't miss your shot. Enter now at therangestl.com/ammo. You have to be 21 or older to enter. It's open to Missouri residents and Illinois residents with a valid FOID card. No purchase necessary. therangestl.com/ammo.
Hi, this is Steve Butts with the Crawford Butts Insurance Agency. I know we're all experiencing sticker shock when you get your insurance premium. Now more than ever, you need an independent insurance agent to find the best value for your family's insurance needs. Crawford Butts, family owned and operated for more than 60 years. Please give us a call at 314-752-2500 or at crawfordbutts.com.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. If you've been diagnosed with mesothelioma, call us now. $30 billion was set aside for meso victims, and in most cases, your claim is settled out of court without a jury trial.
Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Start your summer with a weekend showdown. Shohei Ohtani and the Los Angeles Dodgers roll into Busch Stadium June 6th through the 8th. Be there Friday for a cool new promo, the first ever Cardinals neck fan. Perfect for hot game days. Then on Sunday, young fans 15 and under take home a Rawlings Kids Glove. It's a weekend of big matchups and big giveaways. Get your tickets now at cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Mason Wynn, St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
Hey
parents looking for something fun and unforgettable to do with the kids? Bring the whole family to a Cardinals game at Busch Stadium. From kid-friendly activities and giveaways to awesome promotions like Kids Run the Bases. Your little ones will have a blast, and so will you. Check out Family Sundays, presented by Smithfield, where select tickets include a free jumbo hot dog and soda. There's nothing like sharing the magic of Cardinals baseball together. Make your memories this summer at Busch Stadium. Tickets are available at cardinals.com.
Mark Cox here. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how to link to the market without the risk. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go online to retirementkey.com.
Don't get lulled into believing the IRS is getting soft. It's just the opposite. Hi, this is Lance Story with the Lance Story Law Firm. We are being told by IRS collection officers that their higher-ups are demanding that they get more aggressive than ever. So don't ignore them any longer. Level up. If you have unfiled returns, unpaid taxes, levies, or liens, call the Lance Story Law Firm today and let us get between you and the IRS. We'll protect your rights, including your right to appeal or even your right to take the IRS to tax court. Remember, IRS problems are legal problems, and they need to be handled by an expert attorney team who's done it for decades. So call the Lance Story Law Firm today. We're local. Our office is right here in St. Louis, or visit Lance, DRURY, law.com to schedule your free consultation with your local tax resolution law firm, the Lance Story Law Firm, 314-260-6120.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Mizzou football is here to stay. After an undefeated home season and a second straight 10-win year, the Tigers are looking for more in 2025.
Eli and the boys have done it again.
With a top 10 transfer portal class and a strong home schedule highlighted by Kansas, Alabama, South Carolina, and Texas A&M, you don't want to miss out. Get your spot in line by joining the season ticket wait list at mutigers.com/FB waitlist. MIZ.
You're listening to the Mannie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service is proud to support Greater St. Louis Honor Flight. Sign your veteran up for the Honor Flight today at gslhonorflight.org. And for HVAC services, visit aircomfortservice.com.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show.
Man, I can't even listen to Britney Spears without thinking of current Britney Spears. Current Britney Spears is a mess.
And the Free Britney movement was a mistake.
Yeah, it was a mistake. I think that the guardianship probably was the best thing for her.
Oh.
Yeah. Look, we got you your freedom. What are you going to do with it?
She's like,
I don't know. I'm going to catch knives.
I'm going to get in trouble for smoking on a plane.
Right. Hey, this is the Mannie Frey Show. I'm Ryan Wiggins, Brad Range. Two stories here. You're going to hear the first one and not know how it's linked to the second one. But I'm going to run this by you, Brad Range. Texas bill to require 10 commandments in public schools moves closer to governor's desk. This is about a week old now because I've been gone for a week.
Yeah.
I imagine that this is actually on his desk now. He may have actually signed it. This is Governor Abbott of Texas. A bill that would require, and may actually be passed now, 10 commandments to be posted in every public school classroom in Texas cleared a key legislative hurdle 2 Sundays ago and is closer to heading to the desk of Governor Greg Abbott. The State House of Representatives passed a version of the 10 Commandments bill in an 82-46 vote, so it wasn't even close, following a week of debate and delay when Democratic lawmakers attempted to introduce amendments. Democrats were against the 10 Commandments for some reason, including allowing individual school districts to opt in and for the 10 Commandments to be in different languages, which all passed. Mm-hmm. After the House passed the bill with an amendment on last Sunday requiring the state rather than school districts to defend any legal challenges to the law, which was a good move because these school districts didn't want to take on all the lawsuits. It must now return to the Senate for approval, which they say will happen. Advocates of the law celebrated the win after they initially assumed the bill would proceed directly to the governor once passed by the House. So what do you think of this idea, which isn't just in Texas? This isn't like the first time it's happening in a state. This is something that already exists, at least in, Louisiana and maybe one other state too, maybe Oklahoma.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, like which one of the commandments do you
Arkansas
have,
is the other one.
Which one of the commandments do you guys have a problem with? You know, what moral teachings in the 10 commandments are bad? You don't think people should honor their father and mother? You don't think we should, like, you know, say murder is bad? You got a problem with bearing false witness?
What about honor the Lord thy God? With love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul.
Well,
I don't think that's the actual commandment, but
yeah, have no false gods, no other gods before me. Yeah, I'm cool with that. I think it's all right. I don't think that there's anything wrong with putting the 10 commandments out there, because I think that it helps students, just from a secular point of view, it will help students understand the mentality and ideology of the men and women that founded this country.
I completely agree. And I think there was a time, maybe within the last 20 years, that conservatives or Christians would have been a little bit more like, you know, I get the argument for not wanting to hold up one religion over another. But the fact is, if you don't, we've realized now, at least in my lifetime, that you just create a vacuum. And some other ideology steps into it.
There is no such thing as a spiritual vacuum.
Right, yes, it's going to be filled.
Everything fills it up. You know, I heard a report today that I think it was Pew Research did a poll, and there are something like 30% of people consult zodiac signs to make tough decisions and stuff like that. That's on the growth. And then it was like even higher when you got into left-leaning groups of people, individuals. It was up to 51%. And it's like, you're not atheist.
Right. Yeah. The vast majority of you aren't.
You have a belief system. You're placing it in something.
Yeah.
But you know, it's important to understand that. I think that there are good moral teachings within the 10 Commandments that are good for society that don't necessarily have to be religious specific, but you have to have a moral center as a country to survive.
Yeah.
You can't survive without it.
And this is what our country, this is the moral center of basically all of our founding documents. So if you want to come at it from the historical standpoint, which I think actually may be a part of the way that Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana passed that, that's the way to do it. Now, I would make one more bigger argument for it and say that aside from the fact that the vacuum exists, you know, when you pull morality out or spirituality out, something else replaces it because we crave to know right and wrong. I mean, it's one of the reasons that this radio format works, because we're constantly talking about the right way to go about something versus the wrong way to go about something. Can you believe that these people are doing this? These people are doing it right. These people are doing it wrong. Our YouTube live chat poll today is who is right on the big, beautiful bill? Is it Trump or Elon? Which one of those is doing it right? Which one is doing it wrong? Is it kind of a mix? So this is, you know, we crave it as a human species to know the difference between right and wrong. And if you don't have something like the 10 Commandments, if you don't have literally the 10 Commandments, something else is going to replace it. What we've seen happen over the last probably more than 20, well, let's say 30, 40 years, is that the government has basically replaced religion. You've had the government become religion for a lot of people. And what does government religion look like? Well, we've seen very recently that it looks like, DEI, and it looks like a lot of things that are really contradictory in nature, but they exist because they're the opposite of that thing. So we know they don't all make sense together, but they're not that thing, and that fills the vacuum. And so we've seen that. And the bigger point that I wanted to make before we get to this other story that you're like, how is that related? Is that we've also now seen what it's like to really not instruct an entire generation or more in morals, in higher morals that might come from a higher being, God. It becomes that you can just do anything you want, which sounds really appealing on first glance. But a nation, a society that just decides that there really is no right and wrong other than the right and wrong that is within you, well, people just flip out. They don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And so anything becomes okay if it feels good. We become fully hedonistic, and we become this. I mean, you're seeing the result of crime and chaos everywhere that if you've been alive for more than 40 years, if you've been alive as long as my grandma's been alive for 90 something years, 92, 3 years, you would have seen completely different societies within America. That the things that we tolerate now, walking downtown and not feeling safe, like this stuff, we would have never tolerated this.
Never would have tolerated
in other eras within our own lifetime.
Right. You brought up a really good point about like whenever people look at something and they say what is right and what is wrong, what is the source for your understanding of morality? And I know Annie says this, and so I don't want to step on these listeners' toes, but if you are a listener that is not of a particular religious persuasion, you consider you're an atheist or agnostic or whatever it is, what is it that you use to determine where your right and wrong come from? Because my argument to you, my suggestion to you is ultimately it's your own self.
Mm-hmm.
That is your supreme arbiter of what is morally right and wrong. And so when that's you, then guess who gets to decide what is and is not okay?
Yeah.
You have to come to that. And then are you equipped, knowing who you are as a person, are you equipped to be making that call for yourself? Or should that be handled by something higher and bigger?
I'm glad that this person, I don't know who they are, said this in the chat, because it really kind of encapsulates the argument against it. It would say, you are indoctrinating kids to be Christians, providing 10 commandments in publicly funded class. Why don't we include all religions, or do you think yours is superior? Well, the answer to the last question is yes.
That's kind of the point.
That's kind of the point. But you are indoctrinating kids to be Christians. Well, first of all, before we get too far into it, the 10 Commandments are not Christian.
No.
They are Judeo-Christian, if you want to put it that way.
The Jewish people believe in them as well.
Right. So that's even more inclusive, if you want to put it that way. But providing 10 Commandments in publicly funded class, why don't we include all religions? Well, I would be okay with that. If you wanted to teach the core tenets of morality, if they exist in every religion, that being Muslim, that being Hindu, whatever you want to come up with, if you wanted to teach like those core things to kids and have them up, I actually would not be opposed to that. And you know the reason that I wouldn't be opposed to that? It's the answer to your last question. Do you think yours is superior? Yes. In fact, if you present all of them equally, my belief is that the one true one would stand out, and I'd be fine with that.
Yep. 100%. I was just going to say the same thing. The 10 Commandments are not uniquely Christian. They are also practiced and believed by Jewish people. I am not threatened by another religious belief toward mine.
I'm not either.
I'm not threatened by it. So if you want to put them in there, the reason they're not in there is because people of those faiths have, for whatever reason, not determined that it's important enough to them to have those religious teachings put in the classroom.
Yeah. We basically decided at some point in American history, probably around the 1950s, based on some of the Supreme Court cases, that we decided, you know what, we could either put all the religions in school or none of the religions in school. And we opted to put none of the religions in school.
But when you put none of them in there, you are putting a religion in there.
You're creating a new religion that is what ended up being, because Christianity, like, I remember my pastor in college talking about when he was a kid in the 60s and 70s, they still were teaching Christian doctrine in public schools. They still were doing it. They would pray in public schools. He remembered doing it as a kid. But he said by the time you get to the 70s, 80s, and beyond, that had been gone because culturally we just shifted away from it. I want to take us into this article that I said you're going to go, really? Is that really related? Kind of, but kind of not. It's a BuzzFeed article.
Okay, let's go.
It's BuzzFeed. So I'm going to tell you ahead of time that it's not like really great journalism. But I clicked on it because I'm like, oh, I love this topic. It is 11 celebrities who cheated death and later described their experience with the afterlife. Now, you've seen tons of articles with people who've experienced things like this. They pop up all the time. But these were celebrities that experienced the afterlife. And I'm like, wait a minute now. I don't know that I read this. This is interesting. And apparently there are quite a few who've documented having some sort of experience in, around death, after death, however you want to put it. The first one, I'm only get to a couple here because I just found it interesting. Jeremy Renner.
Yeah.
You realize he had that horrible accident.
Yeah.
It was a truck that rolled over him or something.
A snowcat. It's one of those tracked snow vehicles.
Yeah. So he said, and it's been a while. It was a long recovery. And, you know, when you're that much of a public figure, I mean, when you're one of the major Avengers, everybody wants to know, wow, what happened to you? You know, it's like a big press thing. So he was kind of private for a long time, but he finally has come out and said that it wasn't until the release of his memoir, which was called My Next Breath, that he revealed that while waiting for an ambulance, he temporarily died. This is what he says. After about 30 minutes on the ice, breathing manually for so long, in an effort akin to doing 10 to 20 push-ups per minute for half an hour, that's how hard he was breathing. That's when I died. I could see my lifetime. I could see everything all at once. In death, there was no time at all, yet it was also all time and forever. He described death as an exhilarating experience, but noted that a force, in his words, told him not to let go of his life. During a recent interview on Kelly Ripa's podcast, the now 54-year-old elaborated on his afterlife experience, says, quote, "It's a great relief is all I can say. It's wonderful, wonderful relief to be removed from your body is the most exhilarating peace you could ever feel." He continued, "You don't see anything but what's in your mind's eye, like you're the atoms of who you are, the DNA, your spirit. It's the highest adrenaline rush, but the peace that comes with it, it's magnificent and so magical." Renner noted that after glimpsing the afterlife, he didn't want to come back. "I remember, and I was brought back, and I was so pissed off," he says. "I came back to life, and I was like, oh."
Oh, man.
So there's a lot more to that. It's very interesting. Elizabeth Taylor has one, and she apparently in 1961 died and immediately told the doctors what it was like when she came back, and they all thought she was crazy, so she never said anything again. And then she finally, years later, in 1992, explained it because she said it never really left her. But the one I wanted to get to before we get to the break here is one that, as another more contemporary guy, Jamie Foxx. Now, Jamie Foxx went through some stuff, kind of like Renner, except you knew that what had happened to Renner, but you didn't know what his prognosis was like. You didn't know what his recovery was like. With Jamie Foxx, you just knew something had happened, and you didn't know what. And people kind of on the internet rumored about it, but you didn't really know what happened. So in 2023, in April of 2023, everybody knew something had happened to Jamie Foxx. And he finally described it. He says, on April 11th, 2023, I was having a bad headache, and I asked my boy for an aspirin. Now, I think what he's describing here is like when you're that big of a celebrity, you have an entourage of people just kind of walk around with you. I realized quickly that when you're in a medical emergency, your boys don't know what the blank to do. So he continued. He says, before I could get the aspirin, I went out. I think he's saying passed out. I don't remember 20 days. So on the April 11th, boom, he passes out. He's gone for 20 days. We didn't even know this was happening. He explained that his friends took him to a doctor in Atlanta who gave him a cortisone shot and sent him home. Ultimately, it was his sister who knew something was really wrong. Jamie Foxx explained that his sister drove him around Atlanta until they came to Piedmont Hospital, adding she didn't know anything about Piedmont Hospital, but she has had a hunch that some angels were in there. This is what he says.
Oh, okay.
He says that after being informed of his brain bleed, his sister knelt down outside the operating room and prayed the whole time. Now, here's what's interesting. I don't know what Jamie Foxx's spiritual beliefs are. I don't get the sense from reading this that he has a faith. But listen to this. Fox, while his sister was praying, was having an experience. He says, quote, your life doesn't flash before your face. It was kind of oddly peaceful. He said, I saw the tunnel. I didn't see the light. I was in that tunnel, though. It was hot in that tunnel. And he says, quote, I can't read the cuss words, but blank, I'm going to the wrong place in this M blanker.
Yeah.
Because I looked at the end of the tunnel and I thought I could see something devilish like, come on. So on May 4th, he came out of his coma and recounted that when he woke up, he found himself in a wheelchair, couldn't walk, and was like, why am I in a wheelchair, and all this other stuff. But basically, that Jamie Foxx had a very negative experience. It doesn't get, because it's BuzzFeed, I would like to hear a lot more. Like, what did this mean? How did this change your life? BuzzFeed just kind of stops there, and they're just giving you lots of other ones. But I found that very fascinating, that of all, these are two very public figures. We kind of all knew something had gone on with Jeremy Renner. We didn't know what. And apparently he says, I died. Jamie Foxx says the same thing. I passed out and I died. And I knew my sister was praying for me, and I knew that I was going to somewhere very bad. Yeah. And then I got pulled back. Yeah. Very, very interesting stuff. I don't know if you like those stories, but I really do. And, maybe over the next couple of days, I'll share some more of them, because there's quite a few other celebrities. Not that like celebrity deaths matter than anybody else's, but when you hear those stories, if it's a stranger, you're like, I don't even know whether I can trust you. But if it's a celebrity, they don't have anything to gain from telling the story. This doesn't help or hurt their career. Jeremy Renner, he's not like looking for work. No. like these people don't need your approval. And so that's why when they tell a story like this, I just think it's a little more interesting. One more segment to go, and then Mark Reardon's going to take over. This is the Mannie Frey Show here on 97.1 FM Talk.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show. The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Stewart's American Mortgage and the Bagel Loan, waiting for your phone call. Why haven't you made it yet? You can text it as well at 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. Call my friend Stewie and ask him about how a bagel loan can help you. You need to make this phone call to ensure that when you go through your mortgage acquisition, you're buying a new home, maybe you need to do a refinance, cash out. I'm talking to him right now about a situation where I might need some access to some capital to make a land purchase. I talked to Stewie. He's my number one go-to to make sure I'm making the smart money decision, and he can be yours as well. He's going to treat you exactly the same, and the number that I call and text Stewie on is the same number I'm giving you right now. 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. With that mortgage, that new mortgage you're going to get, brand new or refinance, you are going to pay nothing in closing costs. A huge savings for you at 314-324-4440. Google the Bagel Loan and MLS number 226715.
Cash for Clunkers is back. Overhead Door Company of St. Louis is paying cash for your clunkers now. They'll haul away your old garage door and give you instant credit towards a new insulated door. $200 for the first garage door and $100 for each additional door. Cash in your old entry door too. It's Cash for Clunkers now at Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. Convenient, free, in-home estimates. Schedule online at overheaddoorstlouis.com or call 314-781-5200.
Do you know what went down at the Viper Room the night River Phoenix died? Are you aware of how Steve McQueen escaped death at the hands of the Manson family? But what about the real-life brutal murder that inspired David Lynch's Twin Peaks? These stories and more are told in the Hollywoodland podcast, where true crime and Tinseltown collide. Follow and listen to Hollywoodland wherever you get your podcasts.
Your home is your sanctuary. Get the peace of mind you deserve with a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator from Generator Supercenter. They're the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. With expert installation and 24-hour monitoring, Generator Supercenter won't leave you in the dark. Financing is available. Take control of your power today with Generator Supercenter of St. Louis. Call 314-499-2020. That's 499-2020 or GeneratorSuperCenterofSt.Louis.com. That's GeneratorSuperCenterofSt.Louis.com.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum-sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation and a superior product. As long as it's affordable, why wouldn't you do it? Before you make the costly mistake of painting with traditional paint, you'd be best served to call Rhino Shield today. We are the experts and our evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
All right, last chance to vote on the poll. Who is right on the big, beautiful bill? We got a feud going on between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Is it a feud? I don't know. Is it being blown up by the media? I don't know. But Elon Musk definitely seems like he is not in on this big, beautiful bill, and Donald Trump definitely is in on this big, beautiful bill. So who's right on it? Trump or Elon? That's what we want you to vote on. Jump on Andy's YouTube page and vote in the poll and leave us a message telling us why you voted the way you voted. The time is 2:48. This time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
Good afternoon. It's Mark Reardon getting set to go here on a Thursday afternoon. We have reaction from President Trump to Elon Musk. We'll start with that. We have General Keith Kellogg with his take on the crazy Ukrainian drone strike into Russia, and I guess the promise that Putin is going to strike back. All of that, General Kellogg's at 3:30 and more coming up on 97.1 FM Talk right after Fox News. Hang in there.
This is the Mannie Frey Show.
We're going to try to improve it and improve it substantially. But look, this is America. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I agree with Mr. Musk, for example, that we're not reducing enough spending, and we're going to work hard to try to reduce more spending. But at the same time, we want to pass the bill, because if we don't pass it, we're going to have an automatic $4.3 trillion tax increase on the American people, which will send our economy to the center of the earth. But you know, I'm certainly, we're working hard. I'll put it that way. And as long as everybody takes their meds, we'll get it done.
I like that approach. I like that he says he agrees with Musk that we should not be spending more than we're bringing in. That is called a budget deficit, and we always have them. Even though we elect Republicans to get rid of that stuff, they just keep spending more than we make. But he also acknowledges the reality of the situation we're in. That is why the YouTube live chat poll question today is what it is, which is who is right on the big, beautiful bill? Is it Trump or Elon? Let us know. You still have a couple minutes to get in your vote on that question. We'll give you our answers, and we'll give you results here in just a minute. I did want to mention, I started talking about this at the end of the last hour, and then really kind of talked about Ocracoke Island. So we went on vacation. Today's my first day back. Annie will be back next week. We went out to Colonial Williamsburg, and then we drove the Outer Banks, and we ended up in Ocracoke, and then we saw my cousin in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then we came back. So it was kind of a round trip that we did there. And the interesting part of the American history tour that we did was that we saw the Jamestown settlement, and all these are right next to each other out in Williamsburg, Virginia. Jamestown settlement, we saw Yorktown, where the battle was, the Revolutionary War battle, and then Colonial Williamsburg. And really, Colonial Williamsburg, to me, is the coolest part. I like Jamestown a lot.
Yeah.
Yorktown is very spread out, so it doesn't feel like you're in one spot. You kind of have to drive around and see different things. And so it's a little bit harder to experience it to me. It's still very cool, but Jamestown and Colonial Williamsburg are like spots. You know, you can just go to those spots, and you are kind of where you are. And really, really enjoyed that. We'd done it about 15 years ago, and oddly, a lot of the videos are about the same as they were 15 years ago. So you sit in the little theater and you watch the video that's 5 or 15 minutes long, depending on where you're at, and they're very informative. I love watching those videos because, like, you really get the whole museum tour from just the one spot, and then you can kind of pick your spots that you want to go see. But Colonial Williamsburg was a little bit different to me than going to Mount Rushmore. So in 2022, my family went to Mount Rushmore, and it was a first-time experience for me. Never been there. And this year with the kids, we went to Colonial Williamsburg because we enjoyed Mount Rushmore so much. But there's something different about those two places. One of them is the site of real history The other one is a monument. Nothing significant happened at Mount Rushmore. It's just more of a testament to what we've done, where we've been. But oddly, Mount Rushmore felt so much more inspiring to me. Seeing the famous, faces on the wall or in the concrete or whatever you call it, up on the mountain. It's really a neat experience. I mean, you've seen it so many times, and there's little trinkets of it everywhere and stuff. But to really see it, you're like, that's iconic.
Yeah,
that's really
that was
cool.
The idea,
and they are unapologetically proud to be American there. I don't know how to describe it any way other than that, because they very much acknowledge, look, these were native lands. There's the other, landmark nearby that they're also chiseling out of the same rock that I can't remember the name of it. Crazy Horse, thank you. It's not as if they're trying to whitewash history here or anything, but they're just so proud of what we've accomplished in America that we're still benefiting from now. And they're like, yes, of course, nothing's perfect. We've had problems. Everything's this and that. They don't try to whitewash it, but they lean into the patriotism, and they have an awesome event every single night, as far as I know, at Mount Rushmore, where if you go back at night, it's not as crowded, first of all, and they have like a big amphitheater down in front of Mount Rushmore that they call everybody there who's a veteran up on stage. And I think they give them something, or they do something with them to honor them. And it is every single night there, weather permitting. And it is inspiring. I've seen 1,000 of those things. I work at a conservative talk station. We support veterans. So we are around that kind of stuff a lot. And even so, I watched that and I got teary-eyed sitting there with my son. It was inspiring. Colonial Williamsburg, however, it's living history, so that's cool.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say it's woke, because it's not woke. Everything is 15 years old, so it's not woke.
It's Williamsburg, Virginia.
Williamsburg, Virginia. They're not saying anything. They're not trying to be anti-American there, because I could see them really going down that road too. They're not. They're not doing that at Jamestown. They're not doing that at Yorktown. None of that. But they're just not as proud.
They're not celebrating American exceptionalism.
Yes. And it was disappointing after going to Mount Rushmore and feeling that inspiration, and then going back to Colonial Williamsburg, which I had been to before, and expecting it and just being like, factually, there's nothing they said that was wrong.
Right.
And again, it wasn't like a leftist version of American history or anything, but
maybe
it just didn't give you that
maybe
yes.
it was like a leftist attitude toward it.
It kind of felt that way.
Kind of milquetoast.
And that's why I keep saying that the stuff was 15 years old, because it kind of predates what we would call woke. So maybe a lot of that was like sprinkled in there, but not fully in there. Anyway, just a little bit of an endorsement of Mount Rushmore. Certainly Colonial Williamsburg too. I'm not saying don't go there. It's cool. But just, kind of be prepared for what I just said. The poll today, we're going to get the results here from Brad. Who is right on the big, beautiful bill? Is it Trump or is it Elon Musk?
So do you think this one's close or not close?
I think it's close.
I think this is a landslide. And it's with 180 votes in, it is basically 60-40 in favor of Donald Trump on this one.
Ooh, that's not what I would call a landslide. That's closer
that's
than I thought.
60% majority.
I did think that Trump would win this based on polls we've done in the past, but appreciate your vote. Appreciate your comments. Got a couple of seconds here. I can get to maybe a couple comments as we close out. Today's poll was far from yay or nay. 60-30 when I voted. Elon's not wrong. Vicky says Musk, but not sure what's going on with Trump. That's not what I voted for. So, yeah, I guess a lot of people really commenting on the total of the bill, things they like about the bill or they don't like about the deficit. Thanks for tuning in. Mark Reardon coming up next. We'll see you tomorrow.
At Barry Door and Window, we welcome you to a higher standard of customization and quality. And when I walked through their factory, their showroom, and everything, it is so obvious why people have been choosing Barry Door and Window for the very best in doors, windows, and garage doors for decades here in St. Louis. 56 years plus. that Barry Door and Window has been answering the call for people who want the best, the quality.